Chapter 28:16. Jiang Mo's difficulties. The Grand Elder was also shocked to the point that his entire body was trembling. However, he was a wily old fox after all. After he came back to his senses, he immediately went to greet the representatives who had taken the initiative to approach the Taisui Sword faction. Many of these representatives were backed by powers that the Taisui Sword faction could not afford to offend. He did not dare to be negligent in the slightest. Of course, when it came to the matter of quotas, an old fox like the Grand Elder would naturally give an ambiguous answer and play Tai Kai. After Huan Taiping announced the final rankings, he naturally mentioned the rewards and benefits of this pill competition. What shocked Zhuowen was that the first-place winner of this pill competition was actually given 100 quotas. One had to know that there were only 1,000 quotas for the Divine Medicine Valley. Zhuowen alone had obtained 1/10 of the quotas. This immediately caused many powers to be envious. However, although these powers were envious, they did not dare to make a move. Although they did not place Zhuowen and the Taisui Sword faction in their eyes, they had no choice but to treat the Pill Array Immortal Alliance with caution. Right now, they were in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance's territory. If they made a move against the first-place alchemist here, it would be equivalent to slapping the Pill Array Immortal Alliance's face. They would suffer the Pill Array Immortal Alliance's revenge. Zhuowen did not care about the 100 quotas. He only needed 1 quota to enter the Divine Medicine Valley. The rest of the quotas were not of much use to him. However, when Zhuowen saw that the surrounding cultivators were envious of this quota, his eyes flashed. He thought of a way to satisfy both sides. This quota was not of much use to him, but he would not give it away for nothing. However, he could sell this quota. He could obtain great benefits from it. Other than the quota for the Divine Medicine Valley, our Pill Array Immortal Alliance has also promised that the first-place alchemist of this pill competition will have the opportunity to enter the Pill Array Pagoda to comprehend the Grand Tao of Alchemy. We hope that Alchemist Zhuo will cherish this opportunity. As Huan Taiping spoke, he took out a jade pendant and placed it in Zhuowen's hands. Zhuowen cupped his fists and asked respectfully, "Grandmaster Huan, when can I enter the Pill Array Pagoda to comprehend the Pill Array Grand Tao?" Huan Taiping said calmly, "You can enter the Pill Array Pagoda at any time. However, this old man can remind you that after the Divine Medicine Valley opens, the great Tao of Pill Arrays in the Pill Array Pagoda will be at its densest. At that time, it will be the best time for you to enter the Pill Array Pagoda. It will also be the time when your harvest will be the greatest. The Divine Medicine Valley will open in a month's time. You can explore the Divine Medicine Valley first. It won't be too late to enter the Pill Array Pagoda after you come out. Of course, if you're in a hurry to enter, you can do so now." Zhuowen said gratefully, "Thank you for your reminder, Grandmaster Huan." Huan Taiping nodded, and then he swept the surroundings with his gaze before he said in a clear and melodious voice, "During this month before the Divine Medicine Valley opens, everyone can stay in Pill Formation City or leave on their own." After speaking, Huan Taiping brought the 12 judges and left the plaza. After Huan Taiping left, Zhuowen immediately realized that many gazes were focused on him. These gazes were extremely fervent, as if he, Zhuowen, had become some kind of delicious delicacy. "Pill Master Zhuo, I really didn't expect you to obtain first place in the end. Our Taisui Sword sect owes you a huge favor this time." Xia Qinfan hurriedly walked to the plaza and stared at Zhuowen. Her beautiful eyes were filled with fanaticism and excitement. The other people from the Taisui Sword sect also walked forward. The Grand Elder also hurriedly walked forward and greeted Zhuowen with great enthusiasm. His words were filled with reverence. He was very clear that since Zhuowen could obtain first place in the Pill Formation Grand Assembly, his future was limitless. Especially that Huan Taiping's attitude towards Zhuowen. He knew that Huan Taiping valued Zhuowen greatly. If this Zhuowen could enter the Pill Formation Immortal Alliance, his status would definitely not be low. Moreover, this Zhuowen was currently only a profound grade alchemist. Once he advanced to the eternal grade, his status would rise to a whole new level. No matter what, the Taisui Sword sect had to befriend this youth in front of them. "Pill Master Zhuo, since you're representing our Taisui Sword sect in the Pill Formation Grand Assembly, You've obtained first place in the Pill Formation Grand Assembly and obtained 100 quotas to enter the Divine Medicine Valley. According to the rules, you should take out 90% of the quotas and distribute them to our Taisui sword sect. Suddenly, an ambiguous voice sounded. At the back of the Taisui sword sect's group, the gloomy Jiang Mo walked out from the crowd and looked at Zhuowen indifferently. In Jiang Mo's opinion, the reason why Zhuowen could obtain such a brilliant performance in the Pill Formation Grand Assembly was all because of the quota of the Taisui sword sect. If the Taisui sword sect hadn't given him a quota, how could Zhuowen have the opportunity to become a phoenix from a sparrow? Now that Zhuowen had obtained such a great benefit, it was only right that he share it with the Taisui sword sect. Who are you? Zhuowen glanced at Jiang Mo indifferently, then his gaze fell on Xia Qinfan. Xia Qinfan hurriedly said, Pill Master Zhuo, don't listen to this person's nonsense. According to the rules, I only need 1 quota if you can enter the top 50. The rest of the quotas are yours. To Xia Qinfan, the Taisui sword sect obtaining a quota to enter the Divine Medicine Valley was already a great opportunity. How could she dare to ask Zhuowen for more? After all, if it wasn't for Zhuowen, the Taisui sword sect wouldn't have been able to obtain a single quota. Jiang Mo glared at Xia Qinfan coldly and said, Xia Qinfan, you're really a bitch who favors outsiders. If it wasn't for our Taisui sword sect's quota, how could this kid have the opportunity to participate in the Pill Formation Grand Assembly? If he hadn't participated in the Pill Formation Grand Assembly, how could he have obtained such a magnificent result? I'm already being polite by not taking all of his quotas. You're asking for only 1 quota. Do you want our Taisui sword sect to go hungry? Xia Qinfan said in a low voice, Jiang Mo, these quotas were given by me. What does it have to do with you? Those 3 trash alchemists you found were eliminated in the first round. Now that Pill Master Zhuo, who you don't think highly of, has obtained first place, you're actually showing off. What right do you have? Jiang Mo's expression turned ugly and he said, I won't argue with you about this. When I return, I'll report this to senior brother Jean. After saying that, Jiang Mo spread his hands towards Zhuowen and said, Pill Master Zhuo, hand over 90% of the quotas. This is what our Taisui sword sect deserves. Jiang Mo didn't care about Zhuowen at all. Although Zhuowen's performance in the Pill Formation Grand Assembly was eye-catching, Jiang Mo had investigated him and knew that he was only a rogue cultivator. Moreover, his cultivation was low and he wouldn't amount to anything. If he had joined the Pill Formation Immortal Alliance, Jiang Mo might have been a little afraid. However, this kid wasn't a member of the Pill Formation Immortal Alliance yet, so he naturally didn't have any scruples. I'll give you a chance now. Scram immediately. Otherwise, you won't be able to leave. Chapter 28:17. Trading quota. Ungrateful thing. You have to hand over your quota today even if you don't want to. Jiang Mo was enraged. He reached out with his right hand and grabbed Zhuowen's neck. Unfortunately, Zhuowen casually slapped Jiang Mo and a deep red handprint appeared on his right cheek. He spat out a mouthful of blood and teeth. Jiang Mo screamed miserably as he was sent flying. He crashed into the ground a distance away and fainted. Zhuowen did not care about the unconscious Jiang Mo. He took out 10 quotas and handed them to Xia Qinfan. Miss Xia, these 10 quotas are for you. Take it as a token of my sincerity. Xia Qinfan wanted to refuse, but seeing Zhuowen's firm attitude, she could only accept. She was glad that she found the right person. After giving out the 10 quotas, Zhuowen looked at the surrounding cultivators. He knew that many cultivators were eyeing the quotas in his hand and wanted to shamelessly ask him for them. Everyone, this Zhuo is a loner. With so many spots, this Zhuo won't be able to use them all. This is the location of my inn in Pill Array Immortal City. If anyone is interested in the quotas, please come here to negotiate with me. If the price is right, I am willing to trade the quotas with you. After Zhuowen finished speaking, he left the plaza. The numerous cultivators who originally wanted to surround Zhuowen didn't stop him after he said that. Instead, they silently memorized the address of the inn that Zhuowen gave them and planned to make a deal with him afterwards. In the following period of time, the inn that Zhuowen was in could be said to be bustling with people. Every day, Many cultivators would come to trade with Zhuowen. Zhuowen left these trivial matters to Fire Plume and the other two. He also instructed them to raise the price of the quotas and not sell them cheaply. Because Zhuowen raised the price of the quotas, although Zhuowen's inn was bustling, there were not many people who were willing to trade the quotas. However, there was no lack of rich and overbearing representatives among them. They gritted their teeth and bought several spots from Zhuowen, allowing Zhuowen to make a fortune. On this day, the Huangji aristocratic family and Lightning God Garden came together, wanting to buy the quota in Zhuowen's hands. Zhuowen personally came out and sat in the main hall. He looked down at Lei Zishuan and Huang Wu without saying a word. Whether it was Lei Zishuan or Huang Wu, both of them had quite a bit of enmity with Zhuowen. With regards to their arrival, Zhuowen was not surprised. After all, the alchemists sent out by the Huangji aristocratic family and Lightning God Garden all returned in low spirits in the Pill Rhythm Grand Assembly and didn't obtain a single spot. Furthermore, Zhuowen was the only alchemist selling the quota. If the Thunder God Garden and Huangji aristocratic family wanted to enter the Divine Medicine Valley, they would definitely look for Zhuowen to trade for the quota. Alchemist Zhuo is indeed extraordinary. You shocked the world with a single brilliant feat in this Pill Rhythm Grand Assembly and obtained first place in the end. Zishuan really didn't misjudge you. Lei Zishuan smiled sweetly. Her beautiful eyes stared at Zhuowen with extraordinary splendor. Huang Wu sat upright below, feeling somewhat sullen. He had a great enmity with Zhuowen, and wished for nothing more than for Zhuowen to die without a burial ground. But now, for the sake of the Divine Medicine Valley's quota, he could only ask for help from his former enemy. Huang Wu was very unhappy. Zhuowen smiled and directly ignored Lei Zishuan's compliment. Instead, he looked at Huang Wu below and said to Fire Plume, "Fire Plume, this is the main hall for guests to discuss. Why did you let a dog in?" Bang! Huang Wu was furious. He broke the armrest on his right with a slap. A wave of killing intent enveloped Zhuowen as he said coldly, "Alchemist Zhuo, I'm here today to trade for the Divine Medicine Valley's quota." "What do you mean by that?" "I, Zhuowen, only trade with people, not with mad dogs." "Who do you think you are? Get lost," Zhuowen said indifferently. "You," Huang Wu roared in anger, but he didn't dare to make a move. This was the Pill Array Immortal City. If he made a move, he would immediately be troubled by the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. He looked coldly at Zhuowen. In his heart, he had already regarded Zhuowen as a dead man. He stood up and left without hesitation. He knew that no matter how much he paid, Zhuowen wouldn't trade the quota to him. Why should he stay here and be humiliated? However, Huang Wu had already decided that if he had the chance, he would definitely make a move and kill this bastard Zhuowen. Lei Zishuan's expression didn't change. She looked at Zhuowen with a smile, and said, "Alchemist Zhuo, now that there are no outsiders waiting, we can officially trade. Millimeter, now that there's one less mad dog, my mood is much better. May I know how many quotas Miss Lei wants?" Zhuowen asked indifferently. Lei Zishuan smiled faintly, and said, "I only want 5 quotas. Alchemist Zhuo, you can name a price." "Sure. 1 quota is a Genesis-grade godly herb, so 5 quotas means 5 Genesis-grade godly herbs. Of course, if you don't have any godly herbs, you can use treasures of the same value to trade. This should be a fair price," Zhuowen said indifferently. The smile on Lei Zishuan's face froze. Her expression suddenly became cold, and she said, "Alchemist Zhuo, you don't plan to trade with me, right?" Although the Thunder God Park was a force on the level of a Dao Palace, it would still be difficult for them to take out 5 Genesis-grade godly herbs. Using 5 Genesis-grade godly herbs to trade for 5 quotas to enter the Divine Medicine Valley was definitely an astronomical price. "My prices are always like this. If Miss Lei can't accept them, then you can leave. If you don't want to trade, there are plenty of people who will trade with you," Zhuowen said indifferently. Lei Zishuan's beautiful eyes were filled with anger, but she quickly calmed down. She looked at Zhuowen with a smile, and said, "Let's not talk about the trade for now. Zishuan still has a question to ask Alchemist Zhuo. Previously, when our Thunder God Park mistress saw you being hunted down by Huang Wu, she also chased after you to save you because she was worried about you. However, her whereabouts were later unknown. I wonder if Brother Zhuo knows the exact whereabouts of our Thunder God Park mistress? Zhuowen's eyes were calm, and he said, "How would I know the whereabouts of your Thunder God Park mistress?" "Miss Lei, you've asked the wrong person." Lei Zishuan didn't say anything else, and directly turned around to leave. She didn't even bother to say goodbye. Zhuowen looked at Lei Zishuan's back as she left, and a trace of killing intent appeared in his eyes. Whether it was Huangwu or Lei Zishuan, both of them had wanted to kill him in the past. If it wasn't for Zhuowen's luck, he would have been completely dead by now. If there was a chance, Zhuowen didn't plan to let Lei Zishuan and Huangwu off. Not long after Lei Zishuan left, Fire Plume came to report again that an expert from the Ten Extremities Yin Corpse sect had come to visit. He wanted to meet Zhuowen personally. Zhuowen pondered for a moment. He also knew that this expert from the Ten Extremities Yin Corpse sect was most likely here for the quota, so he asked Fire Plume to invite this expert in. This was an old man with a withered face, and his face was as pale as a corpse's. Although this old man looked as weak as a candle in the wind, Zhuowen didn't dare to underestimate him. From the powerful aura that this old man faintly emitted, Zhuowen knew that this old man was definitely a powerhouse at the level of a Genesis Master. Zhuowen had seen this old man at the plaza of the Pil Grand Assembly before, and he knew that this old man was the leader of the Ten Extremities Yin Corpse sect. Fire Plume had mentioned to him before that this old man's name was Yin Wuxie, and he was a high-ranking elder in the Ten Extremities Yin Corpse sect. His cultivation was at the late stage of the Genesis Master realm, and his strength was much more terrifying than Lei Litian's. Chapter 28:18. Entering the Divine Medicine Valley, in Wuxie walked into the main hall and casually cupped his hands at Zhuowen. His face was full of arrogance. "Alchemist Zhuo, I'm sure you know why I'm here." Yin Wuxie looked at Zhuowen indifferently. His tone was not polite at all. Zhuowen's eyes were calm. From the moment Yin Wuxie walked in, he knew that this old man had no intention of negotiating the quota with him. "Elder Yin thinks too highly of me. How would I know why you're here?" Zhuowen said indifferently. Yin Wuxie's eyes narrowed. He looked at Zhuowen with an extremely unfriendly expression. He sneered and said, "You don't know? Don't pretend to be deaf and dumb. Alchemist Zhuo, you're a loner. It's completely unnecessary for you to get 100 quotas. Didn't you say you wanted to trade the quotas in your hands? I want 50% of the quotas in your hands. As for the reward, this is enough." Yin Wuxie flicked his finger and passed a spirit ring to Zhuowen. Zhuowen's divine consciousness probed the ring. When he saw the few heavenly law origin crystals and divine herbs with thin spirit chi in the ring, his expression turned even colder. Wasn't this Yin Wuxie a little too naive? She actually wanted to exchange such a small amount of things for his 50 slots. Did she think that he, Zhuowen, was a fool? What? You think it's too little? Alchemist Zhuo, it's important to know one's own limits. If you get too much, you won't live long. I believe that Alchemist Zhuo is a smart person. Yin Wuxie's attitude was extremely tough. There was a hint of warning in his voice. "Are you threatening me?" Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. His voice suddenly became cold. Yin Wuxie looked at Zhuowen calmly and said, "I'm threatening you. Who do you think you are? You're just a lone cultivator. Behind me is the Yin Corpse sect, one of the top 10 sects. It's one of the only 5 Holy Ji Palace forces in the host region. Today, I, Yin Wuxie, am here. You, Zhuowen, should obediently wag your tail before me like a dog and give me all your spots. However, I'm quite a generous person. I only asked for 50% of your quota. You should be grateful to me." Zhuowen, on the other hand, laughed out of anger. This Yin Wuxie was too conceited. He was so shameless just because he had the backing of the Yin Corpse sect. Did he think that he was superior to others? Scram as far as you can. I would rather give this spot to a dog than give it to you, Zhuowen said coldly. Yin Wuxie was stunned. He clearly didn't expect Zhuowen to actually dare to refute him. However, he quickly flew into a rage. His gaze was dark as he said, "Are you trying to challenge the authority of the Yin Corpse sect? You should think about the price you have to pay for doing so. I'm telling you to scram. Didn't you hear me? Or do you want to attack me here? Zhuowen said in a low voice. Yin Wuxie was so angry that he trembled. However, he didn't dare to attack. This was the Pill Array Immortal City. If he attacked here, it would immediately alert the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. At that time, he would have to face the attacks of the powerful restrictions around the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Ignorant brat, you won't be arrogant for long. Yin Wuxie swung his sleeves angrily and left in a huff. Fire Plume said worriedly, Big Brother Zhuo, Yin Wuxie is a late-stage Lord of Creation. He's also an elder of the Yin Corpse sect. Isn't it inappropriate for you to offend him like this? This old geezer is clearly looking for trouble with me. Even if I tolerate him, I'm afraid he'll take a mile after I give him an inch. I might as well reject him directly. Zhuowen shook his head. He was very clear about Yin Wuxie's personality. He was insatiably greedy. If he agreed to give him 50 spots, this old geezer would probably take all of his spots. Zhuowen wasn't someone who would sit and wait for death. So what if this Yin Wuxie was backed by a powerful Dao palace like the Yin Corpse sect? If worse came to worst, he could just join the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Would this Yin Wuxie dare to attack him openly? Zhuowen wasn't afraid of anything in the dark. Time slowly passed. The inn Zhuowen stayed in was very lively. As the opening of the Divine Medicine Valley approached, Zhuowen's spots were sold like hotcakes. Even though Zhuowen raised the price of the remaining spots several times in the last few days, they were still sold out. Zhuowen looked at the piles of heavenly Dao origin crystals in the spirit ring that Fire Plume handed over. He was very satisfied. He sold a total of 86 spots this time. Apart from giving 10 spots to Xia Qinfan, he gave 3 spots to Fire Plume and the others, and left one for himself. The number of heavenly Dao origin crystals he obtained this time far exceeded the total number of heavenly Dao origin crystals he had obtained in the past. This was a huge fortune. Even Zhuowen couldn't ignore it. After Zhuowen sold all the spots, a month passed quietly. The opening of the Divine Medicine Valley had also completely arrived. On this day, Zhuowen brought Fire Plume, Steel Plume, and Tong Chimei to the vicinity of the Pill Array Pagoda. After obtaining the spots, Zhuowen also knew that the entrance to the Divine Medicine Valley was at the top of the Pill Array Pagoda. If one wanted to enter the Divine Medicine Valley, they had to go through the Pill Array Pagoda. Huan Taiping also arrived in front of the Pill Array Pagoda. He said in a deep voice, "This time, there are a total of 1,000 spots to enter the Divine Medicine Valley. There's no limit to the time you can stay in the Divine Medicine Valley, but once you obtain 5 divine herbs, the Divine Medicine Valley will automatically teleport you out. I'll now open the entrance to the Divine Medicine Valley. Everyone, take out your spot jade pendants and enter the Divine Medicine Valley through the jade pendant." As he spoke, Huan Taiping formed a seal with both hands. Shortly after, dense restriction ripples appeared at the top of the Pill Array Pagoda. They converged into a powerful whirlpool. The cultivators in the plaza who obtained the spots all raised their jade pendants. Shortly after, they turned into specks of light and were sucked into the whirlpool. After the 1,000 cultivators entered the specks of light, the whirlpool dissipated and disappeared. Zhuowen opened his eyes. Immediately, a powerful and vast medicinal energy rushed towards him. Immediately after, under the effects of the medicinal energy, his cultivation actually faintly improved. Immediately after, Zhuowen discovered that he was in an incomparably huge valley. This valley was much larger than any of the valleys he had seen before. Moreover, he also discovered that this valley was filled with divine medicines with extremely strong medicinal strength. Zhuowen had also seen large and small medicinal gardens, but he had never seen such a large medicinal valley. Furthermore, this Divine Medicine Valley was not just the one Zhuowen was in. There were many other valleys. From where Zhuowen was standing, it was like an endless chain of hills that appeared in his line of sight. Chapter 28:19 The third venomous which Zhuowen knew that the real high-level divine medicine must be in the depths of the Divine Medicine Valley. Didn't the rumor say that there were creation-level and creation-level divine medicines in the Divine Medicine Valley? Zhuowen wasn't interested in other divine medicines, But he was very interested in these two types of divine medicines. One had to realize that Zhuo Wen only possessed a single Genesis-grade divine herb. As for creation-grade divine herbs, he had never even seen one. A divine medicine of this level was already sufficient to cause numerous powerhouses to fight over it. Hey! This aura. Zhuo Wen suddenly froze on the spot. He stared at the depths of the divine medicine valley, and then his body trembled. It wasn't because he was afraid, but because he was extremely excited. This was because he sensed an aura that made his Pangu sacred body extremely excited. Zhuo Wen wasn't unfamiliar with this aura. It was the aura of the venomous witch worm. There was some kind of venomous witch worm hidden in the divine medicine valley. What an unexpected gain. I didn't have much expectations for the divine medicine valley, but I didn't expect to find the aura of the venomous witch worm here. Zhuo Wen was ecstatic. He knew that if he could get the venomous witch worm, his Pangu sacred body would advance to the 5-star level. Once he attained the 5-star Pangu sacred body, Zhuo Wen's strength would reach a higher level. By then, his strength would be comparable to an early-stage creator. I must find the venomous witch worm, Zhuo Wen muttered to himself. He started to follow the Pangu sacred body's senses and rushed toward the depths of the divine medicine valley. 2 days later, Zhuo Wen landed in a valley full of towering trees. In the center of the valley, there was an unusually huge tree that reached into the clouds. It stood in the valley like a pillar supporting the sky. At the bottom of the giant tree, there was a colorful flower. The giant tree seemed to be protecting the colorful flowers, preventing them from being hit by the wind and rain. Zhuo Wen stopped under the huge tree. His eyes flickered because he sensed the location of the venomous witch worm. The huge tree looked extraordinary from afar. However, Zhuo Wen sensed that other than its huge appearance, the huge tree didn't have any charm. It was just an ordinary tree. The flowers under the huge tree also didn't have any charm. They were very ordinary. However, Zhuo Wen was even more suspicious because the huge tree and flowers didn't have any charm. The Divine Medicine Valley for the Divine Medicine Valley was planted. The Divine Medicine Valley for Divine Medicine Valley was very divine medicine, but these two ordinary plants didn't. Therefore, Zhuo Wen translation as he sat on the Divine Medicine sea tree and flower. His was it that translation. Is translation is translation translation? Translation is translation is translation? Translation is translation is translation? Translation is spirit God translation 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 is translation 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 is translation translation. 3 days later, Zhuo Wen opened his eyes. His eyes shone with a radiance that could not be ignored. During these 3 days, he used his divine sense to drill deep into the giant tree. Finally, he found a dimensional space at the core of the giant tree. The Pangu banner in Zhuo Wen's divine soul trembled from the aura faintly emitted by the dimensional space. Zhuo Wen knew that the ancestral wizard Gu worm he sensed was in the dimensional space within the giant tree. It's really well hidden. If I hadn't cultivated the Pangu sacred body and been extremely sensitive to the venomous worms of the ancestor sorcery, I wouldn't have been able to discover this dimensional space. Zhuo Wen muttered to himself as he punched the giant tree. The powerful force blasted the giant tree into a huge pit, and he actually fell into the pit. Zhuo Wen continuously punched out. Like a pile driver, he began to rush into the depths of the giant tree, constantly approaching the dimensional space. Finally, Zhuo Wen arrived in front of the dimensional space. The entrance to the dimensional space was not big. It was a black hole about half the size of a person. Zhuo Wen stood at the entrance with a dignified look in his eyes. Every venomous worm of the ancestor sorcery was extremely powerful. The first venomous worm that Zhuo Wen subdued was the Zhurong venomous worm. In order to subdue the Zhurong venomous worm, Zhuo Wen had suffered a lot. The second one was the Gomang venomous worm. Although it was not particularly difficult to subdue the Pangu sacred body, it was still forcibly sealed in the Sun and Moon Demon Mirror by the power of the Gomang venomous worm. Now that he had found the third venomous worm of the ancestor sorcery, although he was excited, he was more vigilant. Pangu sacred body? Just as Zhuo Wen was hesitating at the entrance of the dimensional space, An ancient voice came from the dimensional space. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and could not help but take a few steps back. He looked coldly at the entrance of the dimensional space and said coldly, "You are. I sensed the aura of the Pangu sacred body from your body. Answer me, have you cultivated the Pangu sacred body?" The ancient voice sounded again. Its tone was hurried and contained a hint of excitement. Zhuowen did not answer. He just looked at the entrance of the dimensional space and was extremely vigilant. Zhuowen had a vague guess about the owner of the voice. "Don't worry. I won't hurt you. In fact, I will help you. After so many years, I finally saw a cultivator who cultivated the Pangu sacred body again. Moreover, I'm afraid that you have merged with 2 venomous worms of the ancestor sorcery in your body." "That's really amazing." The ancient voice did not care about Zhuowen's vigilance. Instead, it was talking to itself, and its voice was full of emotion. "Come in. I can swear to the heavenly law that I will never hurt you. Otherwise, my soul will be destroyed." The voice sounded again, and it sounded very sincere. Zhuowen hesitated for a while. In the end, he simply entered the dimensional space. In the dimensional space, it was another world. There was only one mountain, and the mountain was surrounded by clouds and mist. At this moment, Zhuowen was standing on the mountainside. The mountain was filled with many rare fruits and even plants that Zhuowen did not recognize. Not far from the mountainside, there was a white pavilion. In the pavilion, a dignified old woman sat quietly with her legs crossed. The old woman was looking at Zhuowen with a smile. Her expression was peaceful and kind. "You are," Zhuowen frowned. He sensed the aura of the venomous worms of the ancestor sorcery on the old woman. In his impression, the venomous worms of the ancestor sorcery were just venomous worms. How could they have a human form? You don't have to be surprised. I am the venomous worm of Goddess Hutu, one of the 12 ancestors of sorcery. This form is what I imitate Goddess Hutu. Of course, it can only be done in this dimensional space." The old woman smiled. Zhuowen was stunned. He was no stranger to Hutu. Hutu was called Goddess Hutu by the later generations. She was the mother of the earth. She controlled yin and yang, nourished all things, and inherited the heavenly law. "You were sealed here?" Zhuowen did not approach her. Instead, he asked tentatively. "No, I hid here myself. Even the people of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance did not know. I used the enormous medicinal power of the Divine Medicine Valley to recover my strength. If you did not cultivate the Pangu sacred body, you would not have discovered me at all," the old woman said calmly. Chapter 28:20. Hutu's request Junior. "Are you a human?" the old lady suddenly asked. Zhuowen nodded and said calmly, "The human race and the wizard race are both descendants of Pangu." "Haha, you're right. Both the human race and the wizard race originated from Pangu. Which level have you cultivated the Pangu sacred body to?" the old lady continued to ask. "The peak of the 4-star level," Zhuowen answered. "Just in time. As long as you merge with me, you can break through to the 5-star level." The old lady nodded and said with relief. "Junior, after cultivating the Pangu sacred body, you bear Pangu's mission and inherit his will. Do you know the heavy burden on your shoulders?" Suddenly, the old lady stared at Zhuowen. The aura on her body suddenly became strong and oppressed Zhuowen. It was as if she would attack Zhuowen without hesitation if he said something wrong. Pangu is the origin of this starry sky. He created the world, dispelled the chaos, and created this colorful starry sky, Zhuowen said calmly. The old lady nodded and sighed softly. "Do you know that this world has begun to return to chaos? Back then, Pangu was unable to break through the heavens and was forced to be killed. You have cultivated the Pangu sacred body, so you need to walk the same path. Do you know that?" Zhuowen said calmly, "I know. I, Zhuowen, am a person who knows how to repay kindness. However, I won't guarantee anything because the future is unpredictable and ever-changing." The old lady looked deeply at Zhuowen and said, "I believe you. Although I'm not the kind of person who bemoans the state of the universe and the fate of mankind, I once promised Hutu that if I meet someone who cultivates the Pangu sacred body, I will definitely help him." As she spoke, the old lady's body emitted a white light. Then, the white light began to shrink and finally condensed into a small white dot. With a whoosh, it rushed toward Zhuowen. Zhuowen's eyes flickered, but he did not resist. He could sense that the old lady had no ill intentions toward him. Moreover, he could also see that the small white dot was a Gu worm. He knew that it was the body of the Hutu Gu worm. When the little white dot finally merged into Zhuowen's body, Zhuowen fell into a deep sleep. He realized that he had a very, very long dream. In his dream, he saw the other 11 ancestors of sorcery and the 3 pure ones. His perspective was that of the Lady of Earth. He saw the 12 grand magi and the 3 pure ones working together to summon an extremely huge giant. This giant seemed to have materialized, standing tall and upright. Its aura was incomparably vast, as if it could break through the entire starry sky. This was Pangu's shadow, and Zhuowen was no stranger to it. Be it the 12 ancestral shamans or the 3 pure ones, they all had serious expressions on their faces. They raised their heads and looked at the sky above them. Up there was chaos. The primal chaos did not have any shape. It was vast and boundless. The aura it emitted was extremely terrifying, as if it was going to devour the entire starry sky. Pangu's silhouette roared into the sky. Holding 2 axes in his hands, he soared into the sky and engaged in a fierce battle with the approaching chaos. The aftermath of the fierce battle spread out. Zhuowen's spirit was shaken, and he was immediately awakened. Zhuowen looked around and found that the surrounding environment was still in the dimensional space, but the old woman was no longer there. Zhuowen calmed down. He knew that the dream just now should be the Lady of Earth's memories. He finally knew why the 12 ancestral shamans suddenly disappeared and why the 3 pure one's strength was greatly reduced. All of this had something to do with the primal chaos. "I've advanced to 5 stars. Zhuowen looked at his hands that were glowing with a glazed luster, as well as the powerful force that was constantly surging out of his body. He knew that his Pangu sacred body had advanced again and reached the realm of 5 stars. However, Zhuowen was not too happy in his heart. Especially when he saw the memory that the Lady of Earth showed him, Zhuowen's heart felt even heavier. He could not forget the horror of the primal chaos that invaded from beyond the starry sky. Even if the 12 ancestral shamans and the 3 pure ones worked together, they could not get rid of the monster. It would become his destined opponent in the future. "I have to become stronger. I have to become stronger." Zhuowen's eyes were firm. As long as his strength became stronger than Pangu, then even if the primal chaos was terrifying, he, Zhuowen, would not be afraid at all. "Thank you, Lady of Earth. Your long-cherished wish is also my mission. Even if you don't say it, I will eventually face the primal chaos. Whether it is for the starry sky or for my life, I, Zhuowen, will not back down." Zhuowen stood up and left the dimensional space. Immediately, the entire dimensional space collapsed. When Zhuowen came back to the giant tree, he found a figure on the giant tree. It was a young man in a long robe. His long and narrow eyes stared coldly at Zhuowen as if he was looking at his prey. "You found something good in this giant tree, didn't you? Hand it over and break your hands. Then, you can get lost." The man in long robes stared coldly at Zhuowen and spoke rudely. He stretched out his hand to Zhuowen and demanded the item he'd found. When Lady of Earth's parasites had entered Zhuowen's body, the giant tree had emitted a powerful aura. Though it had only lasted for a moment, the man in long robes had sensed it. He guessed that there must be a great treasure inside. The man in long robes had naturally discovered the hole Zhuowen had dug in the giant tree. He'd entered the hole and found the entrance to the dimensional space. However, the entrance was sealed and he couldn't enter, so he'd returned to the top of the giant tree to see who the cultivator who'd entered the dimensional space was. When he discovered that the cultivator was only a mere primal chaos lord, he was overjoyed. He knew that the item in the dimensional space was at his fingertips. As for primal chaos lord, he didn't really intend to let him go after he handed over the item. His words were only to make the cultivator lower his guard. "Who the hell are you?" Zhuowen frowned, feeling that this person was too arrogant. He was only an eternal overlord, which was not worth mentioning in his eyes. Let me tell you who I am. I'm Hao Tianyi, an inner disciple of the 10 Extremities Yin Corpse sect. Since you're so stubborn, don't blame me for being rude and taking your worthless life. The man in long robe's eyes were filled with killing intent. He flew down and dove towards Zhuowen. He'd attacked without a word, intending to kill Zhuowen. The 10 Extremities Yin Corpse sect again. Zhuowen frowned. He didn't like the 10 Extremities Yin Corpse sect at all. Previously, Yin Wuxie had wanted to ask for 50 spots to enter the Divine Medicine Valley for free, which was proof of this. You regret it now, don't you? Unfortunately, even if you regret it, what's the use? You can go to hell and repent now. The man in long robes grinned maliciously. He approached Zhuowen and punched out, aiming for Zhuowen's chest. However, he soon discovered that the moment his fist landed on Zhuowen's chest, it was as if he had punched an iron plate that was as hard as iron. Zhuowen didn't move at all, but his fist was aching faintly. What's going on? The man in a long robe was stunned. He couldn't believe that the physical body of this primordial chaos master was so terrifying. Smack. Chapter 28-21. Impersonating Hao Tianyi was beaten into a daze. He wanted to stand up in a sorry state, but Zhuowen had already landed beside Hao Tianyi and stomped down. Plop. Hao Tianyi groaned and fell face first into the ground. He felt like his whole body was falling apart. With Zhuowen on his back, he couldn't get up at all. How dare you? I'm a disciple of the 10 Extremities Yin Corpse sect. How dare you hit me? Hao Tianyi roared angrily. Not only do I dare to hit you, but I also dare to kill you. Zhuowen's lips curled into a cold smile. He lifted Hao Tianyi by the neck and poured all his terrifying power into Hao Tianyi's body. Boom. Hao Tianyi stared at Zhuowen in disbelief. He died just like that. His divine soul had been obliterated by Zhuowen. After killing Hao Tianyi, Zhuowen noticed that the communication jade pendant on Hao Tianyi's waist lit up. Zhuowen took Hao Tianyi's communication jade pendant and found that it was a message from the leader of the 10 Extremities Yin Corpse sect, Yin Wuxie. The main content of the message was that Yin Wuxie had found a hidden valley. There were many eternal-grade divine herbs in the valley. There were even some Genesis-grade divine herbs. It was a real treasure valley. However, he wasn't the only one who found this treasure valley. Yu Junkai, the leader of the sun-chasing temple, also found it. As a result, Yin Wuxie and Yu Junkai engaged in a fierce battle, while the disciples of the Zui Ri temple and the Yin Corpse sect also engaged in a fierce battle. Fairy Yin Wuxie sent a message to Hao Tianyi, asking him to hurry to the valley and help. Zhuowen's eyes flashed, and a smile appeared on his face. It seemed that he was lucky to encounter such a good thing as soon as he came out. He could pretend to be Hao Tianyi and enter the valley first, then wait for an opportunity to act. If there was a chance, he wouldn't mind taking all the divine herbs in the valley. Putting away the communication jade pendant, Zhuowen disguised himself as Hao Tianyi and left. After about 6 hours, Zhuowen arrived at the valley mentioned in the communication jade talisman. This valley was located at the bottom of the abyss and was extremely well hidden. If it weren't for a coincidence, it would be impossible for ordinary cultivators to discover this valley. The moment Zhuowen entered the valley, he could feel the fluctuations of a great battle. There were 2 groups of people fighting in the valley. Zhuowen knew that these 2 groups were from the 10 Extreme Yin Corpse sect and the Sun-Chasing Temple. Judging from the current situation of the battle, the Yin Corpse sect of the 10 Extremes was at a disadvantage. The Yin Corpse sect's team only had 7 people, while the Chasing Sun Temple's team had 10 people. The 10 Absolutes Yin Corpse sect's team was completely suppressed by the Sun-Chasing Temple. However, Zhuowen did not see Yin Wuxie or Yu Junkai, the leader of the Sun-Chasing Temple. Senior brother Hao, you're finally here. Come and help us. Not far away, a delicate female disciple from the 10 Extreme Yin Corpse sect's team noticed Zhuowen's arrival and was immediately overjoyed. She couldn't help but call out to him. Her voice naturally attracted the attention of others, especially the cultivators from the Sun-Chasing Temple. They all revealed gloomy expressions and murderous intent. A middle-aged man who seemed to be the leader of the Sun-Chasing Temple's team said to two cultivators beside him, "You two go and kill Hao Tianyi, then come back and kill the others." The two cultivators cupped their hands at the middle-aged man and charged at Zhuowen with murderous intent. These two cultivators had decent cultivation bases and were eternal overlords. Unfortunately, in Zhuowen's eyes, they were no different from chickens and pottery dogs. Zhuowen only needed to throw 2 punches to severely injure the two cultivators. They collapsed to the side, unconscious. The two teams that had been engaged in a fierce battle were stunned when they saw Zhuowen take care of the two eternal overlords so easily. When they came to their senses, the cultivators from the 10 Extreme Yin Corps sect cheered. Hao Tianyi was a disciple of their sect. They were saved this time. "Hao Tianyi, how can you be so strong?" The middle-aged man from the Sun-Chasing Temple looked at Zhuowen in shock, his eyes full of disbelief. Zhuowen didn't pay any attention to this middle-aged man who was in a state of shock. He took a stride forward and flashed out like a bolt of lightning, and he quickly appeared before the middle-aged man. He still only struck out with a single punch, and this punch was extremely ordinary and didn't carry any charm. The middle-aged man's eyes flashed with anger when he saw Zhuowen only throw out a single punch. He felt that Hao Tianyi was looking down on him. "I'll make you regret this." The middle-aged man took out the large saber on his back and slashed down. The terrifying saber light was like a crescent moon hanging in the sky, rushing toward Zhuowen with terrifying power. To everyone's surprise, Zhuowen grabbed the blade of light with his bare hands. With a squeeze, the blade of light was shattered into pieces. Not only were the cultivators from the Sun-Chasing Temple in disbelief, but the other cultivators from the 10 Extreme Yin Corps sect were also surprised. They didn't remember Hao Tianyi being so strong. Moreover, it was too abnormal for him to take the middle-aged man's saber light with his bare hand. One had to know that the middle-aged man had a high status in the Sun-Chasing Temple, and his cultivation was a half-step Genesis overlord. He was considered the strongest existence in this group. Zhuowen took advantage of the moment when the middle-aged man was stunned and rushed forward. His right hand formed a claw and grabbed the middle-aged man's neck. In that instant, Zhuowen used the tyrannical Dao slaying technique. His right hand seemed to have turned into a beast's claw that could take a man's life. The middle-aged man screamed. His head was blasted into a bloody mist, and his divine soul dissipated. The moment the middle-aged man died, the surroundings fell silent. Senior brother Hao helped us kill the Sun-Chasing Temple's Lin Guanyu. Now it's time for us to fight back. The delicate female cultivator from the 10 Extreme Yin Corps sect was the first to recover from her shock. She led the cultivators from the 10 Extreme Yin Corps sect to fight back. The Sun-Chasing Temple's morale was low due to the death of their strongest cultivator, Lin Guanyu. The cultivators from the 10 Extreme Yin Corps sect seized the opportunity and scattered. In a short while, the cultivators from the Sun-Chasing Temple were either dead or running away. The valley suddenly became quiet. "Thank you for your help, Senior Brother Hao. If you didn't come in time, we would have been in trouble." The delicate female cultivator hurried to Zhuowen and thanked Zhuowen. Her beautiful eyes shone with a strange light. Zhuowen asked curiously, "Why isn't Elder Yin here? Also, didn't Elder Yin send me a message saying that a precious divine medicine was found here? Why didn't I see it?" The delicate female cultivator hurriedly explained. After listening to her explanation, Zhuowen realized that the divine medicine was not here, but deep in the valley. At this moment, Yin Wuxie and Yu Junkai were fighting in the depths of the valley. It would be difficult to determine the winner in a short time. "Senior Brother Hao, Elder Yin said before that if we win, we will immediately rush to the depths of the valley to help him pick the divine medicine." After the delicate female cultivator finished explaining, she continued to speak to Zhuowen. "In that case, let's go quickly." Zhuowen's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly asked the delicate female cultivator to bring him there. Chapter 28-22. The enraged Yin Wuxie. As they went deeper into the valley, Zhuowen could feel the terrifying shockwaves from the battle. He knew that it was probably the battle between Yin Wuxie and Yu Junkai. Soon, the group arrived at the depths of the valley. At this moment, Zhuowen saw an average-sized herb field in the deepest part of the valley. The herb field glowed with vibrant colors and emitted an astonishing medicinal fragrance. Far away from the herb field, Yin Wuxie and Yu Junkai were fighting in the air. The battle was extremely intense, as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. However, the two of them knew their limits. Although the shockwaves from their battle were terrifying, they didn't allow the shockwaves to affect the herb field. The herb field was a huge treasure. They didn't want it to be destroyed because of their battle. Otherwise, their battle would lose all meaning. Yin Wuxie was overjoyed when he saw Zhuowen and the others arrive. On the other hand, Yu Junqi's expression changed drastically, as if he had guessed something. Tianyi, lead the others to the herb field to pick the divine herbs. Remember, pick the Genesis-grade divine herbs first. You can't afford to lose them, Yin Wuxie shouted. Without needing Yin Wuxie's instructions, Zhuowen had already taken action the moment he saw the herb field in the depths of the valley. There was a limit of 5 divine herbs to be picked in the divine herb valley this time. Once you picked 5 divine herbs, you would be teleported out immediately. Zhuowen's actions immediately caused Yin Wuxie to frown. After all, he hadn't even finished speaking and Hao Tianyi had already taken action. This was basically treating his words as nothing more than passing wind. However, Yin Wuxie quickly realized that something was wrong. Hao Tianyi's aura was very weak. It didn't seem like the aura of an eternal overlord. Wait, you're not Hao Tianyi, Yin Wuxie suddenly shouted. He reached out with his right hand and grabbed at Zhuowen, who was running toward the herb field. But just as Yin Wuxie attacked, she was immediately blocked by Yu Junkai. Yin Wuxie had no choice but to instruct the other cultivators of the Yin Corps sect to stop Zhuowen. However, Zhuowen's speed was too fast, and he was the first to run out, so the others couldn't catch up with Zhuowen at all. When Zhuowen arrived at the herb field, he immediately discovered that there were 4 Genesis-grade elixirs in the field. He didn't hesitate to put them into his bag. After he put away the 4 Genesis-grade divine herbs, the 7 disciples of the 10 ultimate Yin Corps sect, led by the delicate female cultivator, surrounded Zhuowen. What is the meaning of this? Zhuowen asked calmly. Senior brother Hao, hand over the 4 Genesis-grade herbs. Those herbs should be given to Elder Yin. The delicate female cultivator looked at Zhuowen warily. She finally noticed that Zhuowen's aura was indeed very weak. He didn't seem like an eternal overlord. She hadn't noticed before because she'd been fighting with the cultivators of the sun-chasing temple. It was only when Yin Wuxie suddenly brought it up that she noticed this suspicious point about Zhuowen. What if I don't hand it over? Zhuowen asked coolly. If you don't hand it over, then I'm sorry. The delicate female cultivator shot a look at the others, and they all attacked together, intending to surround and kill Zhuowen. Zhuowen sneered and used the tyrannical art of Dao slaying. His entire body was like a fighting machine, and every move he made had the power to annihilate the heavenly Dao. Next, Zhuowen punched each of the surrounding cultivators and blew them up. The pretty woman's face went grim as she exerted all her ability with the intention of blocking Zhuowen's punch, yet it was utterly useless. Her entire body was blasted flying, and her body was on the verge of collapse as she fell to the ground and was on the verge of death. Zhuowen showed no mercy. The members of the 10 Ultimates Yin Corps sect were not kind people. One could see this sect style from Yin Wuxie and Hao Tianyi. How dare you? Not far away, Yin Wuxie, who was still entangled with Yu Junkai, roared angrily and rushed toward Zhuowen. Yu Junkai didn't stop him. He'd already sensed that something was wrong. He knew that Hao Tianyi was an imposter, and that this person was very likely someone from another faction. Now that all 4 Genesis stage herbs had been taken away by that cultivator, how could he be in the mood to continue fighting with Yin Wuxie? Zhuowen saw that Yin Wuxie was on the verge of losing his mind. He didn't choose to fight him head-on. Instead, he casually took a divine herb from the herb field and disappeared from the herb field. He was teleported out. Yin Wuxie landed on the surface of the herb field. He was so angry that he roared, but there was nothing he could do. After all, the 4 most precious Genesis-grade herbs in the herb field had already been taken by Zhuowen. Damn it, I'll definitely find you, then pull out your tendons and peel off your bones. I'll make you suffer a fate worse than death. Yin Wuxie was so angry that his chest tightened. He steeled his heart and casually plucked 5 divine herbs from the herb field. He also teleported out of the area. Yu Junkai hovered nearby. He couldn't help but shake his head when he saw Yin Wuxie's extreme actions. If he was Yin Wuxie, he definitely wouldn't leave the Divine Medicine Valley so hastily. Instead, he planned to stay in the Divine Medicine Valley for a while longer. Perhaps he could find even better divine herbs. After leaving the Divine Medicine Valley, Zhuowen landed on the plaza. At the same time, he returned to his original appearance. Zhuowen didn't think that Yin Wuxie would immediately chase after him. After all, the Divine Medicine Valley was so big. Moreover, the 4 most precious Genesis-grade herbs in the herb field had already been taken by him. As long as that Yin Wuxie was rational enough, he would definitely continue to stay in the Divine Medicine Valley and search for other precious divine herbs. It's actually you little bastard. How dare you pretend to be a disciple of the 10 Extremes Yin Corpse sect to steal my divine herbs? You're practically asking for death. A fierce shout sounded from behind Zhuowen. Then, an extremely terrifying aura locked onto Zhuowen. An unprecedentedly huge energy palm slammed down from above Zhuowen's head. It enveloped Zhuowen's entire body. This palm was really too terrifying. It was the full power attack of a late-stage Genesis tier mighty figure. At this moment, there were many cultivators gathered on the plaza. When Zhuowen teleported out, no one paid much attention to him. However, when Yin Wuxie teleported out and immediately attacked Zhuowen, everyone's attention was drawn to Zhuowen. At the same time, many cultivators were guessing what Zhuowen had done to infuriate Yin Wuxie to the point that she would attack him. Chapter 28-23. Entering the Pill Formation Pagoda. This Zhuowen is done for. He actually provoked Yin Wuxie to attack him so mercilessly. He's dead for sure. The difference is too big. This Zhuowen is only Lord Hunyuan. Yin Wuxie's attack is enough to make this Zhuowen die without a burial ground. Everyone was discussing. Meanwhile, Huan Taiping, who was guarding nearby, suddenly stood up and shouted, "Yin Wuxie, this is the Pill Formation Immortal Alliance. How dare you attack as you please? Are you looking down on the Pill Formation Immortal Alliance?" However, Yin Wuxie acted as if he didn't hear him. His attack became even faster, and it instantly engulfed Zhuowen's figure. Boom! A huge pit appeared in the plaza. Smoke filled the air, and the plaza was completely silent. The instant Yin Wuxie attacked, he hurriedly cupped his hands and apologized to Huan Taiping. "Grandmaster Huan, this Zhuowen doesn't know what's good for him. He attacked and killed a disciple of the 10 Extreme Yin Corpse sect in the Divine Medicine Valley. Furthermore, he used despicable methods to steal 4 Genesis-grade divine herbs from me. I suppressed him in a fit of anger. Now that something like this has happened, it's really unintentional." Yin Wuxie's words were sincere, and she even lowered her status. Huan Taiping landed not far in front of Yin Wuxie. Just as he was about to speak, a figure suddenly jumped out and slapped Yin Wuxie's face. Yin Wuxie's attention was focused on Huan Taiping, so he wasn't prepared. He was directly slapped to the ground, looking extremely pathetic. "Who is it?" Yin Wuxie immediately stood up and looked forward with bloodshot eyes. He was shocked to find that the person who had attacked him was actually Zhuowen. "You're not dead?" Yin Wuxie asked in disbelief. The surroundings were in an uproar. Clearly, no one had expected that Zhuowen would be safe and sound under the attack of a late-stage Genesis-grade cultivator. "Old dog Yin, the divine medicine in the Divine Medicine Valley isn't yours. What right do you have to say that it was snatched from your hands? You old dog, you are truly shameless," Zhuowen said coldly. Yin Wuxie was enraged. Just as he was about to make a move to teach Zhuowen a lesson, Huan Taiping stopped him. "Elder Yin, I won't say anything about you making a move in the square without permission. If you dare to act recklessly in front of me again, then don't blame me for being impolite." As Huan Taiping spoke, the restrictive array formation on the surface of the plaza suddenly became powerful and terrifying, firmly locking Yin Wuxie in place. Yin Wuxie had no doubt that as long as he dared to make a move, the restrictions around the square would immediately transform into a killing array. At that time, he would be in trouble. He had seen the might of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance's restriction array. If it was fully activated, it could even kill a Genesis Lord like him. Since that's the case, I'll take my leave first. Yin Wuxie saw that he couldn't make a move and didn't want to stay here for long. He simply left the square. Many thanks, Grandmaster Huan. After Yin Wuxie left, Zhuowen cupped his fists towards Huan Taiping to express his gratitude. Huan Taiping waved his hand and looked at Zhuowen. Zhuowen, this Yin Wuxie probably won't let this go so easily. I see that your talent in alchemy is very strong. If you join my Pill Array Immortal Alliance, I guarantee that once you advance to the Eternal grade, I'll immediately confer you the position of an Elder of the Alliance. Zhuowen cupped his fists and said, Many thanks for Grandmaster Huan's kindness. It's my honor to be able to join the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. However, I have a request. After I join the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, the Pill Array Immortal Alliance can't restrict my freedom. Huan Taiping nodded and said, As long as you become an Elder of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, the Pill Array Immortal Alliance naturally won't restrict your freedom. Moreover, you'll be able to enjoy the various benefits of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Zhuowen frowned. He knew that Huan Taiping was implying that only after he became an Eternal grade alchemist would he have the qualifications to enjoy the freedom of an Elder. Since that's the case, I'll think about it first. After I leave the Pill Array Pagoda, I'll give Grandmaster Huan an answer. How about it? Zhuowen said in a deep voice. Seeing Zhuowen decline, Huan Taiping frowned slightly. His eyes flashed and he finally nodded. All right, we'll discuss this after you leave the Pill Array Pagoda. Now, you're going to enter the Pill Array Pagoda. Take this jade slip. This jade slip records the rules of the Pill Array Pagoda. Before you enter the Pill Array Pagoda, you'd better take a look. Zhuowen kept the jade slip. He was very grateful towards Huan Taiping in his heart. Shortly after, he cupped his fists and said, Many thanks, Grandmaster Huan. Now, I'm going to enter the Pill Array Pagoda. I hope that Grandmaster Huan can open the door to the Pill Array Pagoda. Yes, this Pill Array Pagoda has 12 levels. If you want to go up, you'll have to comprehend the Pill Array Dao of the corresponding level. You're only an alchemist, so you only need to comprehend the Pill Dao. As for the Array Dao, you can ignore it. After Huan Taiping finished speaking, he waved his sleeve and opened the door to the bottom of the Pill Array Pagoda. Zhuowen's figure flashed and entered the pagoda. This Zhuowen is going to enter the Pill Array Pagoda. I wonder which level he'll be able to enter. The Pill Array Pagoda has 12 levels. I heard that the strongest Genesis grade alchemist of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance only reached the 10th level. Have you forgotten about the creation grade alchemist of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance? I heard that he reached the 11th level. He's only one step away from entering the last level of the Pill Array Pagoda. It's really shocking and heaven-defying. When the people in the plaza saw that Zhuowen had entered the Pill Array Pagoda, their interest was piqued. They were all guessing which level Zhuowen would be able to enter. Huan Taiping stood at the bottom of the Pill Array Pagoda. An old man with white hair and beard, who was also wearing a wide robe, came to Huan Taiping's side with a walking stick. He stroked his snow-white beard and said with a light smile, "This little guy is very spirited. I wonder which level he'll be able to enter. According to past experience, it's already very impressive for this little guy to be able to pass the 5th level. However, this is still not enough. If he wants to obtain the qualifications to enter the Pill Array Dao domain, he'll have to reach the 7th level at least," Huan Taiping muttered with a frown. The old man shook his head and said, "The number of talents in our local Pill Array Immortal Alliance branch has indeed withered in recent years. I'm afraid our local Pill Array Dao domain will be at a disadvantage this time. Taiping, I think you're placing too much hope on this little guy, and your expectations are too high." Huan Taiping said in a low voice, "Elder Fang, this time, he's only a mystery grade alchemist, yet is able to refine the heavenly soul marrow cleansing divine pill. Moreover, his success rate is 100%, and the quality is even unique. Is this something an ordinary alchemist can do? However, this Zhuowen has done it. Therefore, I think is very likely the hope of our local Pill Array Immortal Alliance's younger generation. Elder Fang nodded, and said, this little guy's performance in the Pill Grand Assembly was indeed extraordinary. However, his alchemy skills are too low. In this short period of time, he shouldn't be too far away from the qualifying round. It's impossible for this little guy to become an eternal grade alchemist in a short period of time. Huan Taiping sighed. This was also where his worries lay. Chapter 28-24. The mysterious pill refining book's abnormality. After a moment of dizziness, Zhuowen opened his eyes. What he saw was a space that looked like a starry sky. His surroundings were cold and dark. In this strange space, there were flowing lights that looked like shooting stars. The tracks of the flowing lights were like strands of silk. They were intertwined and complicated. Zhuowen knew that the traces left behind by the flowing lights were the Dao rhythm of the Pill Array Grand Dao. As long as he entered the traces of flowing lights, he would be able to comprehend the two Grand Daos of Pill Array Grand Dao. If he gained anything, his Dao array level would increase greatly. Zhuowen didn't recklessly enter the traces of flowing lights. Instead, he took out the jade letter that Huan Taiping gave him and studied it carefully. His eyes flickered and he fell into deep thought. He was currently on the first level of the Pill Array Pagoda, which was also the lowest level. According to the jade letter that Huan Taiping gave him, the Pill Array Pagoda was, as its name suggested, split into two parts, Pill Dao and Array Dao. Zhuowen was currently outside of the traces of flowing lights. This meant that he hadn't truly entered the Pill Array Pagoda's trial. This was a buffer for the Pill Array Masters who entered the Pill Array Pagoda. It gave them enough time to choose whether they wanted to comprehend Pill Dao or Array Dao. Zhuowen walked to the front of the traces of flowing lights. There was a jade platform that was half the height of a person. This jade platform was very ordinary. The jade on the surface had lost its luster. However, at the top of the jade platform, there was a circular pattern. This pattern was divided into two areas. From Zhuowen's understanding, it was easy to see that these two areas represented pills and arrays. These were the buttons for the cultivators who entered the Pill Array Pagoda. If one wanted to comprehend Pill Dao, they had to press the button for pills. Otherwise, they had to press the button for arrays. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He extended his hand and pressed the buttons for the two diagrams together. He was both a pill master and an array master. This was an extremely rare opportunity to enter the Pill Array Pagoda. Naturally, he couldn't just comprehend Pill Dao. When he pressed the buttons for pills and arrays, the flowing lights in front of him suddenly surged. They formed a wave and swept Zhuowen in. At this moment, the people around the square discovered that the Pill Array Pagoda, which had not changed before, was now emitting a dazzling light. Moreover, this light split into two regions on the surface of the Pill Array Tower. One region revealed the illusory image of the pill, while the other region revealed the illusory image of the array. Of course, the two shadows only appeared on the first level of the Pill Array Pagoda. This little fellow actually activated the buttons of the Pill Array's two great regions at the same time. Is he trying to comprehend the Pill Array's two great Dao runes at the same time? Huan Taiping's eyes were filled with shock, and he could not help but blurt out. The old man standing beside Huan Taiping, Fang Zisha's expression wasn't much better than Huan Taiping's. One had to know that there were many cultivators in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance who cultivated both Pill Dao and Array Dao at the same time. However, almost none of them dared to enter the Pill Array Pagoda and comprehend the Pill Array Dao at the same time. It wasn't that they couldn't comprehend it at the same time, but that they didn't dare to do so. A person's energy was limited. Even a cultivator would find it hard to do two things at the same time. Even if they could do it, the efficiency would be much lower than focusing on one thing. There were many greedy cultivators like Zhuowen in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. They didn't want to waste the opportunity to enter the Pill Array Pagoda, so they chose to comprehend the Pill Array Dao at the same time. However, in the end, they couldn't even pass the first level of the Pill Array Pagoda. This was because comprehending both Pill Dao and Array Dao at the same time created a strong disturbance. If one wanted to comprehend both thoroughly, they would end up with nothing. Typing, didn't you tell this little fella about this taboo? It seems like this little fella won't be able to pass the first level. This opportunity to enter the Pill Array Pagoda has been wasted. Fang Zisha shook his head and sighed. Quan Taiping smiled bitterly. This was indeed his mistake. He always thought that Zhuowen was only a pill refiner, and didn't know the array Dao. Therefore, he didn't remind Zhuowen of this taboo. If he knew that Zhuowen also knew the array Dao, he would have warned Zhuowen not to be too greedy. On the first level of the Pill Array Pagoda, countless streams of light surged, leaving behind dazzling scars in the air. If one looked carefully, these streams of light could be divided into two different colors. One was a fiery red, representing the Pill Dao. The other was a cold blue, representing the array Dao. Zhuowen was in the middle of these two Dao. He was like a small boat in the middle of the ocean that could capsize at any time. At this moment, Zhuowen's heart was bitter. He didn't think that activating both the Pill Dao and array Dao would cause such a rapid chain reaction. Due to the conflict between the two Dao, the Dao was in chaos. Zhuowen didn't even need to talk about comprehending them. It was already good enough that he could protect himself. I can't continue like this. Otherwise, I won't even be able to pass the first level and will be kicked out. Wouldn't that be a waste of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to enter the Pill Array Pagoda? Zhuowen's eyes flashed and he took out the mysterious pill book. This mysterious pill book had an extraordinary origin and there were many things he didn't know about it. Now that he encountered an unexpected situation in the Pill Array Pagoda, he could only take out this mysterious pill book to test it out. What surprised Zhuowen was that after he took out the mysterious pill book, the violent Pill Dao around him calmed down. Then, Zhuowen shockingly discovered that the mysterious pill book was violently absorbing the surrounding Pill Dao. In less than an hour, the red streams of light that represented the Pill Dao were completely absorbed by the mysterious pill book. Then, Zhuowen discovered that the surface of the mysterious pill book had changed quite a bit. Originally, whether it was the cover or the pages inside the mysterious pill book, they were all blank. It was like a heavenly book without words. The only words were the last few pages of pill formulas and some records about the Pill Dao. This was because Zhuowen's Pill Dao had improved by a lot. The contents of the mysterious pill book had increased according to his Pill Dao standards. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any words in the mysterious pill book. Now that the mysterious pill book had absorbed the Pill Array Pagoda's Pill Dao, many words appeared in the blank pages. Zhuowen came to a sudden realization. He knew that there were records in the mysterious pill book. In the past, the reason why he couldn't see the contents of the mysterious pill book was because his Pill Dao standards were too low. He didn't have enough Pill Dao, so he couldn't reveal the original contents of the mysterious pill book. Chapter 28-25. True Pill Array Record. Originally, Zhuowen thought that this mysterious pill book would stop after absorbing all the Pill Dao spirituality of the Pill Array Pagoda's first level. However, he realized that he was wrong. This was because after this mysterious pill book finished absorbing the Pill Dao's Dao, it actually started to absorb the array Dao's Dao. Streaks of blue light were absorbed by the mysterious pill book like a whale sucking in water. Zhuowen was dumbfounded when he saw this. Wasn't this a pill book? Why was it absorbing the array Dao's Dao? However, Zhuowen soon calmed down. He looked at the mysterious pill book and started to ponder seriously. It seemed like this mysterious pill book wasn't just a pill book. It was probably a godly pill book that combined the Pill Dao and array Dao. After the array Dao's Dao was completely absorbed, Zhuowen discovered that 4 bold and powerful words appeared on the cover of this godly book. So this godly book's full name is True Pill Array Record. Zhuowen muttered to himself. He couldn't help but flip open the True Pill Array Record. He was immediately attracted by the contents of this book. The True Alchemy Array Record explained the principles and processes of alchemy Dao and array Dao in simple terms. While Zhuowen was reading the True Alchemy Array Record, he was also constantly verifying his own alchemy array Dao and discovering many flaws and inadequacies. Zhuowen was intoxicated. After flipping through about 1/12 of the True Pill Array Record, he realized that the rest of the pages were all blank. Zhuowen put down the True Pill Array Record. He knew that if he wanted to read the rest of the true pill array record, he would need to enter the higher levels of the pill array pagoda. He would need to let the true pill array record completely absorb the pill array Dao's Dao. Zhuowen kept the true pill array record and walked towards the second level of the pill array pagoda. He knew that with this true pill array record, the pill array pagoda wouldn't be a problem for him. The pill array pagoda's second level was much denser and more intense than the first level. If Zhuowen relied on himself, he wouldn't be able to last for long on the second level. However, these terrifying pill array Daoist rhymes were not a problem for the true pill array record. He absorbed them all. After the true pill array record absorbed all the pill array Dao runes of the second level, some mysterious content appeared in the 1/12 blank space at the back of the record. Zhuowen, on the other hand, was like a thirsty scholar as he tirelessly flipped through the contents of the true record of alchemy. His alchemy skills had also unknowingly improved as he flipped through the true record of alchemy. When Zhuowen reached the fourth level of the pill array pagoda, his array Dao level seemed to have been enlightened. He directly broke through the primordial chaos realm and rushed into the heaven's fate realm. Above Zhuowen's Tianling meridian, an invisible array Dao ripple spread out. It actually resonated with the array Dao spirituality within the pill array tower. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with excitement. He didn't expect his array Dao level to break through so quickly. He knew that all of this was due to the true pill array record. Moreover, he also discovered that his alchemy Dao level was faintly showing signs of breaking through. His alchemy Dao level had already reached the mysterious level. If he took another step forward, he would reach the eternal level. As long as his alchemy Dao level reached the eternal level, he would instantly become an elder the moment he entered the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. This was what Huan Taiping had promised him. As Zhuowen continued to explore, more and more blank spaces appeared in the true Pill Array record. Zhuowen's alchemy Dao level also continued to rise. When Zhuowen reached the seventh level, his array Dao level broke through again, reaching the mysterious level. His alchemy Dao level reached the peak of the mysterious level. He wasn't far from the eternal level. In fact, if Zhuowen wanted to break through to the eternal level, he could do it. However, he didn't do so. Instead, he planned to break through to the eternal level in both his alchemy Dao and array Dao. After studying the true Pill Array record, he knew that alchemy Dao and array Dao came from the same source. The two complemented each other. If the two were of the same level and advanced together, it would be of great help to his future alchemy Dao cultivation. But if the two weren't of the same level, not only would they fail to complement each other, the lower level might even drag down the higher level. This was also the reason why Zhuowen would encounter two types of Dao charm when he planned to enter the Pill Array Pagoda to comprehend the two types of Dao charm. In the end, it became an obstacle for him to comprehend either Dao charm. If his alchemy Dao and array Dao levels were of the same level, then the two would form a balance. Entering the Pill Array Pagoda to comprehend the two types of Dao charm would be beneficial. The efficiency would even be higher than comprehending a single Dao charm. Zhuowen continued to move upwards. When he entered the Pill Array Pagoda's 10th level, 5/6 of the true Pill Array record's blank spaces had already been filled with dense words and content. The moment Zhuowen entered the 10th level, Zhuowen's alchemy Dao and array Dao broke through simultaneously, reaching the eternal grade. Zhuowen's eyes flashed with a look of enlightenment. His hands kept forming seals in the void, and he took out array flags one after another. Unexpectedly, he set up an eternal level array formation in a short time. After setting up the formation, Zhuowen took out the Emperor Pill Cauldron and took out various herbs from the macro world. He planned to start alchemy directly on the 10th level of the Pill Array Pagoda. Advancing in the alchemy Dao was much more troublesome than advancing in the array Dao. Only after successfully refining a spirit pill of the corresponding level could one truly consolidate their advancement. This time, Zhuowen was refining the most basic eternal level spirit pill, called the Eternal Pill. Opening the furnace and igniting the spirit flame, Zhuowen methodically refined the Eternal Pill. The alchemy process flowed smoothly without the slightest sloppiness. To Zhuowen's surprise, the process of refining the Eternal Pill went extremely smoothly. He succeeded on his first try. When he succeeded in refining the eternal pill, the look of enlightenment in his eyes deepened, and his understanding of the eternal level alchemy Tao deepened. He knew that from this moment on, he was an eternal level alchemy master. This pill array pagoda has a total of 12 levels. There are still 2 levels left. As long as I enter the last 2 levels, all the gaps in the true pill array record will be completed. Perhaps my alchemy skills will rise to another level. Zhuowen's eyes fell on the stairs leading to the 11th level at the end of the 10th level. His eyes shone with excitement. Without any hesitation, he stepped onto the stairs and walked towards the 11th level. What Zhuowen didn't know was that while he was breaking through the pill array pagoda, the square was as lively as a boiling pot. Even Huan Taiping and Fang Zisha, who were watching from the side, were dumbstruck. Their entire bodies froze on the spot. He actually broke through to the 10th level, and under the conditions of stimulating both the alchemy Dao and array Dao. The corners of Fang Zisha's mouth twitched. He didn't know what to say. In his opinion, Zhuowen might not even be able to break through the first level. However, Zhuowen's performance was as if he had broken through all the obstacles and directly entered the pill array pagoda's 10th level. Huan Taiping's shock wasn't any weaker than Fang Zisha's. At the same time, he was ecstatic. Chapter 28-26. Pill Array Immortal Alliance leader. This time, after this kid comes out of the pill array pagoda, even if his alchemy skills are still at the profound grade, I will still give him the position of an elder. Huan Taiping's eyes shone brightly as he smiled. Fang Zisha did not refute. He did not object to Zhuowen becoming an elder of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. In the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, anyone who could reach the 10th level of the Pill Array Pagoda would become a Genesis Pill Master. The few old farts of their generation had reached the 10th level of the Pill Array Pagoda when they were young. Now, they had become the pillars of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Look, the 11th level of the Pill Array Pagoda is lit up. Is Zhuowen going to reach the 11th level? My God, I heard that there is only one person who can reach the 11th level in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, and that is the mysterious creation grade alchemist. He is also the #1 person behind the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. The 11th level of the Pill Array Pagoda is really lit up. This Zhuowen is too ferocious. He actually reached this level. He is definitely abnormal. After discovering that the 11th level of the Pill Array Pagoda was lit up, everyone in the plaza exclaimed. Discussions swept out like a tidal wave. Everyone was shocked. Huan Taiping and Fang Zisha were completely frozen. Their mouths were slightly open, and they could not say a single word. This Zhuowen must be roped into the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, no matter the cost. Fang Zisha was the first to regain his senses. He made up his mind. Zhuowen was really too heaven-defying. He was actually able to reach the 11th level of the Pill Array Pagoda. One had to know that in the entire Pill Array Immortal Alliance, only the mysterious creation grade alchemist, who was also the ruler behind the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, had reached the 11th level. But now, there was one more person. If the Pill Array Immortal Alliance did not rope in such a genius, then their Pill Array Immortal Alliance would really have a screw loose. Huan Taiping was also pleasantly surprised. His heart was like a turbulent sea, and he could not calm down. Zhuowen closed the true Pill Array record again, and the light of understanding in his eyes became more and more obvious. He was currently at the 11th level of the Pill Array Pagoda, and after the Pill Array True record absorbed the Pill Array Dao aura of this level, the newest 1/12 of the content had appeared. Zhuowen had also finished reading it. At this moment, Zhuowen's alchemy Dao and array Dao had both reached the peak of the eternal level. The more he read the true alchemy array record, the more enlightened Zhuowen became. Naturally, his comprehension of the true alchemy array record also increased. Although Zhuowen's level of alchemy array had just advanced to the eternal grade, the true alchemy array record had inspired him greatly. It had allowed him to improve his alchemy array level to the peak of the eternal grade in a short period of time. Zhuowen had a premonition that if he could study the entire true pill formation record, perhaps he would be able to see through the third step of pill formations and directly advance to the God of Creation stage. This premonition became more and more intense in Zhuowen's mind, and Zhuowen's heart also became more and more passionate. If he could reach the God of Creation stage in all his alchemy array Dao, his status in the host region would be equal to those Dao Palace Masters of Creation stage Almighties. If he joined the Pill Array Immortal Alliance as a God of Creation stage Alchemy Master and Array Dao Master, his status would be no different from Huan Taiping and Fang Zisha, the older generation Alchemy Masters and Array Dao Masters of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. As he thought of this, Zhuowen resolutely stepped onto the 12th level. His eyes were filled with determination, and the true alchemy array record in his hands also emitted a rich light. It seemed to be excited and anticipating the Pill Array Dao aura of the 12th level of the Pill Array Pagoda. In the deepest part of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, there was an ordinary pavilion. The surface of this pavilion was filled with terrifying array restrictions. If a cultivator who understood Array Dao came near this pavilion, they would immediately be so shocked that they wouldn't dare to come close. This was because the array restrictions on the surface of this ordinary pavilion were even more terrifying than the ones around the Pill Array Pagoda. Once these restrictions were activated, they would form an extremely powerful death trap array that would exterminate all enemies who dared to invade this pavilion. At this moment, in a simple room inside the pavilion, a white-haired youth was sitting on a purple praying mat. The white-haired young man's body was surrounded by extremely abstruse restriction ripples, which were obscure and profound. Suddenly, the white-haired youth opened his eyes. Shock could be seen in the depths of his eyes. Someone actually made it to the 12th level of the Pill Array Pagoda. Who exactly is it? The white-haired youth stood up abruptly. He didn't conceal the shock in his eyes. I have to go take a look. After saying this, the white-haired youth disappeared from the pavilion. At this moment, the surroundings of the Pill Array Pagoda were completely silent. Everyone was staring at the light that was still shining on the top floor of the Pill Array Pagoda. There was no discussion or clamor. They were all shocked speechless by what had happened on the Pill Array Pagoda. Everyone knew that ever since the Pill Array Pagoda had been established, no one had ever made it to the 12th level. Even the mysterious Pill Array Immortal Alliance's creation-grade alchemist hadn't done it. However, today, the unknown Zhuowen had done it. Moreover, he was only a mystery-grade alchemist. This result made many people's jaws drop. They couldn't believe it. Huan Taiping and Fang Zisha were speechless. Their expressions were numb. Suddenly, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. The white-haired youth appeared behind the two of them. Alliance Master. When Huan Taiping and Fang Zisha saw the white-haired youth, they hurriedly cupped their hands and bowed. However, they were extremely shocked. The white-haired youth was the true ruler of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. He was also the only creation-grade alchemist in the Alliance. Normally, he wouldn't appear unless the Pill Array Immortal Alliance was in a life-and-death crisis. However, today, the white-haired youth had come out of seclusion for Zhuowen. Who's making it to the Pill Array Pagoda? The white-haired youth only nodded slightly at Huan Taiping and Fang Zisha. Then, he looked at the Pill Array Pagoda and asked. Huan Taiping hurriedly clasped his hands and recounted everything related to Zhuo in full detail. He's actually not a member of our Pill Array Immortal Alliance. He's just a rogue cultivator. The white-haired youth revealed an astonished expression. He clearly didn't expect that the person who made it to the 12th level of the Pill Array Pagoda was actually a nameless rogue cultivator. Invite this child to join our Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Let him become our 5th Immortal Master. His position will be the same as the two of you, the white-haired youth said calmly. Huan Taiping and Fang Zisha were shocked. They didn't expect the white-haired youth to value Zhuowen so much. He actually directly gave Zhuowen the position of Immortal Master. In the huge Pill Array Immortal Alliance, there were only 4 Immortal Masters. Huan Taiping and Fang Zisha were 2 of them. Regardless of whether it was Huan Taiping or Fang Zisha, it took them countless years of hard work and contributions to finally become an Immortal Master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. In the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, it was impossible to become an Immortal Master just by relying on talent and potential. One also needed sufficient experience and prestige. However, The white-haired youth directly made Zhuowen an immortal master of the Pillar Immortal Alliance. This showed that he valued Zhuowen greatly. Chapter 28-27. Bestowed to an immortal master on the 12th floor of the Pillar A Pagoda, Zhuowen's eyes shone as he looked at the true Pillar A record in front of him. He absorbed all of the Pillar A Dao aura around him, and the last 1/12th blank space of the true Pillar A record was filled with words. Zhuowen couldn't wait any longer. He grabbed the true Pillar A record and started to study it as if he was drunk. The look of enlightenment in his eyes became more and more intense. When Zhuowen put down the true Pillar A record, he couldn't help but sigh in admiration at the profound knowledge of the cultivator who created this record. The true Pillar A record was extremely profound. Zhuowen knew that studying it once wasn't enough. He had to study it repeatedly in order to gain more and more. However, even though he had only roughly studied it once, his gains were unimaginable. What made Zhuowen regretful was that his alchemy Dao and array Dao had both reached the pinnacle of the eternal grade. He originally thought that he could break through to the Genesis grade after entering the 12th floor of the Pillar A Pagoda. However, now it seemed that he had overestimated himself. However, it wasn't that he didn't gain anything. At least, he had seen the trajectory of the Pillar A Dao and gained a lot of insights. Breaking through to the Genesis grade was only a matter of time for him. It's time to go down. Zhuowen put away the true Pillar A record. This was a very important thing, and he had to protect it well. Otherwise, it might attract the attention of others. When Zhuowen walked down the Pillar A Pagoda, he found that the atmosphere around the plaza was unusually quiet. Many pairs of eyes were focused on him, making him feel slightly uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Huan Taiping and Fang Zisha hurried forward. Huan Taiping had a warm smile on his face as he said, "Congratulations, Zhuo Xiaoyu. You actually shocked the world by entering the 12th floor of the Pillar A Pagoda." Fang Zisha also clasped his hands in greeting and said some words of praise. Zhuowen was a little surprised. Huan Taiping and Fang Zisha were both Genesis grade alchemists of the Pillar A Immortal Alliance. They had high positions and authority. Although he had shocked the world by entering the 12th floor of the Pillar A Pagoda, it wasn't enough for two Genesis grade alchemists to treat him so warmly and politely. His gaze quickly noticed the white-haired youth behind Huan Taiping and Fang Zisha. The white-haired youth looked ordinary, but Zhuowen felt an indescribable sense of oppression from the white-haired youth. Zhuowen knew that this youth was definitely not simple. Moreover, from the positions Huan Taiping and Fang Zisha were standing in, it could be seen that these two were faintly following the white-haired youth's lead of him. Zhuowen. You. Zhuowen. You. Of you. You. Zhuowen. Zhuowen. Of you. Of. Little friend Zhuo, this is the alliance leader of the Pillar A Immortal Alliance, Ji Wu Ming. He's also the only creation grade pill master in the Pillar A Immortal Alliance, Huan Taiping hurriedly introduced, his eyes filled with reverence. Zhuowen. He didn't expect this white-haired youth to be the Pillar A Immortal Alliance's alliance head. No wonder Huan Taiping and Fang Zisha were so respectful. Greetings. Zhuowen cupped his fists. The white-haired youth was satisfied with Zhuowen's performance. He nodded. He stared at Zhuowen and said, "Zhuowen, you passed the 12th floor of the Pillar A Pagoda. This shows that you have unlimited potential. In the future, you will be able to break through to the 3rd step of the Pillar A Grand Dao. You are the first cultivator in the history of the Pillar A Immortal Alliance to pass the 12th floor of the Pillar A Pagoda. Now, I, Ji Wu Ming, invite you to be the 5th Immortal Master of the Pillar A Immortal Alliance. Do you agree?" Zhuowen was stunned. He didn't know what an Immortal Master was. Huan Taiping quickly explained to Zhuowen what an Immortal Master was. At the same time, he mentioned that once Zhuowen became an Immortal Master of the Pillar A Immortal Alliance, he would be on the same level as Fang Zisha and him. Zhuowen was shocked. He looked at Ji Wu Ming. He didn't expect Ji Wu Ming to give him such a high position. It seemed like Ji Wu Ming valued him a lot. Zhuowen only wanted to become an elder of the Pillar A Immortal Alliance. He wanted to use the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance to restrain that old geezer Yin Wuxie. Now that he was an immortal master, he had a much higher status than an elder of the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance. Yin Wuxie would have to hold back before he could deal with him. Many thanks for Alliance Head Ji's kindness. But after I become an immortal master, will there be restrictions on my freedom? Zhuowen asked hesitantly. Zhuo Xiaoyu, don't worry. An immortal master is the most respected Pillar Ray Grandmaster of the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance. There won't be any restrictions in the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance. However, when the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance is in danger, as an immortal master of the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance, you must protect the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance with your life, Huan Taiping said with a smile. Hearing this, Zhuowen agreed without hesitation. The white-haired young man, Ji Wuming, smiled when he saw that Zhuowen had agreed. Immortal Master Zhuo, I see that your Pill Dao and Array Dao have just broken through to the peak of the eternal grade. You shouldn't have stabilized your realm yet. Go and stabilize it now. 3 days later, I will personally confer you the position of Immortal Master and announce it to the world. Ji Wuming looked at Zhuowen meaningfully and smiled. Zhuowen's heart trembled. Ji Wuming really had good eyesight. He cupped his hands and left. This kid's Pill Dao has already broken through to the eternal grade. It seems that our Eastern Immortal Alliance has a great chance of entering the Pillar Ray Dao Domains qualifiers. Huan Taiping and Fang Zisha didn't see that Zhuowen's Pillar Ray Dao had reached the eternal grade. Now that Ji Wuming mentioned it, their eyes lit up with excitement. In the following period of time, the rumor that Zhuowen had passed the 12th floor of the Pillar Ray Pagoda spread throughout the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance. Everyone knew that the profound grade Pill Master Zhuowen, who had won first place in the Pillar Ray Grand Assembly, had actually accomplished such a feat after entering the Pillar Ray Pagoda. Even the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance's Alliance Master, Ji Wuming, hadn't been able to pass the 12th floor of the Pillar Ray Pagoda. However, Zhuowen had passed it. Didn't this mean that Zhuowen's talent was even more terrifying than Ji Wuming's? At the same time, many cultivators realized that this pill master called Zhuowen was really going to soar. The Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance definitely wouldn't let go of such a powerful genius. They would definitely invite him to join the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance and give him an extremely high status. Many people guessed that if Zhuowen were to join the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance, he would immediately become an elder-level figure in the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance. However, the next explosive news shocked everyone. Zhuowen had indeed joined the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance. Moreover, the person who had invited him was the Alliance Master, Ji Wuming. Moreover, he had directly made Zhuowen the 5th Immortal Master of the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance. This news not only shocked the entire Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance, but when it spread to the other regions of the host region, most of the forces in the host region were shocked. They didn't know who this Zhuowen was. However, when they heard that this kid had only been a rogue cultivator before joining the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance, they were all shocked and began to inquire about this Zhuowen. Chapter 28-28. 6 Desires Spirit Condensing Saint Pill. Within the 10 Extremities Yin Corpse sect, there was a deep cave filled with yin qi. Numerous ghastly coffins stood in a forest. Dense yin qi surged up as if it was material. Even a cultivator at the second step of the Dao validation realm would probably have to retreat in such a terrifying environment filled with yin qi. In the depths of the cave filled with yin qi, a figure was faintly discernible like a ghost. It was a man. The strange thing was that there was a golden vertical mark between the man's brows. It emitted a blazing golden light and seemed out of place in the gloomy surroundings. What? It's that Zhuowen again? That bastard actually became the 5th Immortal Master of the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance. Damn it. The man with the golden vertical mark between his brows threw the communication jade talisman in his hand to the ground. His eyes were ferocious as he revealed his handsome face. If Zhuowen was here, he would definitely recognize that this person was Sakyamuni, who had a deep enmity with him in the past. Ever since Zhuowen became an immortal master of the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance, His name had spread throughout the entire host region. Although many forces didn't know what Zhuowen looked like, Zhuowen's name was already well known. Sakyamuni's status in the Ten Extremities Yin Corpse sect wasn't low, so he naturally had heard of Zhuowen's deeds. I should have completely annihilated this kid when we were on Heavenly Armor Planet. Now, he has become so powerful. Sakyamuni's eyes flickered. He felt that this matter was a little difficult to deal with. His cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds during these years in the Ten Extremities Yin Corpse sect, and he had already broken through to the second step of the Tao validation realm. He was now an expert under the Lord of Profundity. Moreover, Sakyamuni had a heaven-grade Tao root, so his status in the Ten Extremities Yin Corpse sect was extremely high. Even the leader of the group, Yin Wuxia, who was heading to the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, had a lower status in the sect than Sakyamuni. Sakyamuni was very young, and his talent was extremely high. His future was limitless, and he was loved and valued by the sect leader of the Ten Extreme Yin Corpse sect. There were many elders in the Ten Extremities Yin Corpse sect who wanted to befriend Sakyamuni, and Yin Wuxia was one of them. I have to get rid of this Zhuowen. I have to send a message to Elder Yin Wuxia. The killing intent in Sakyamuni's eyes was boiling. He couldn't leave now and was in a state of continuous breakthrough. Moreover, he could feel that his Tao root was about to evolve again. This period of time was the most crucial moment for him, and he absolutely could not leave. Although Sakyamuni wanted to kill Zhuowen with his own hands, he knew that he did not have the opportunity to do so. Within the Pill Array Immortal Alliance's Pill Array Immortal City, Yin Wuxia sat in his room with an ugly expression. After hearing that Zhuowen had been promoted to an Immortal Master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, he knew that he no longer had the qualifications to act against Zhuowen. If he acted, he would completely anger the people of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. An Immortal Master's position in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance was too important. Their position was not inferior to the vice-sect leader of the Ten Extremities Yin Corpse sect. If he acted, his fate would be very miserable. Yin Wuxia quickly realized that the communication jade at his waist had lit up. He frowned, but still took it out. After a while, he muttered to himself, Sakyamuni also has a grudge against Zhuowen. He actually asked me to kill Zhuowen. However, Yin Wuxia quickly shook his head. Zhuowen's current status was different from before, and he did not have the qualifications to act. If he acted, he would bring disaster to himself. He could not help Sakyamuni with this request. Just as Yin Wuxia was about to reject, someone knocked on his door. He opened the door and saw a man and a woman standing outside. Thunder God Park's Lei Zishuan and Huangji family's senior Huang Wu are here to greet Senior Yin. Lei Zishuan was wearing a red dress. She had a sweet smile on her face as she bowed to Yin Wuxia. Yin Wuxia looked at Lei Zishuan indifferently and nodded to Huang Wu who was beside her. Lei Zishuan was just a junior of the Master of Destiny, so he did not care about her. However, Huang Wu was the leader of the Huangji family and was also a creator. Yin Wuxia paid more attention to him. Why are the two of you looking for me? Yin Wuxia stood at the door, not intending to let the two of them in as she asked in a neutral tone. Lei Zishuan did not mind Yin Wuxia's disregard. After all, the latter came from a Tao palace and was also a creator. It was normal for him to ignore her. Actually, it's like this. We want to discuss the matter of Zhuowen with Elder Yin. If I remember correctly, there should be quite a bit of conflict between Elder Yin and Zhuowen, right? Lei Zishuan said with a sweet smile. I'm afraid you've found the wrong person. That Zhuowen is now an Immortal Master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. He's not someone I, Yin Wuxia, can afford to offend. If you're here for this matter, you can go back now, Yin Wuxia said coldly. Huang Wu suddenly cupped his fists and said, Elder Yin, we have a way to force that Zhuowen out and kill him without anyone knowing. As long as Elder Yin cooperates with us, we have an 80% chance of success. Yin Wuxia was taken aback, but her interest was piqued. She nodded and gestured for the two of them to enter, saying, Please come in. If your method is reliable, it's not like I can't cooperate with you. While Yin Wuxia and the others were plotting, Zhuowen was in the room, refining pills. Waves of medicinal fragrance filled the room, making it look like a paradise. Bang! Suddenly, there was a soft sound, and a cloud of black smoke rushed out of the pill furnace. The black smoke turned into a fierce tiger and charged toward Zhuowen. Its roar shook the sky. Zhuowen retreated abruptly. He clenched his right fist and punched at the tiger. The power of the Pangu sacred body burst out and directly dispersed the tiger formed by the black smoke. Zhuowen sighed lightly. He knew that he had failed to refine this cauldron of pills. This was the third time he had refined a batch of Genesis-level divine pills, but he still failed in the end. One had to realize that the ingredients for each Genesis divine pill were extremely precious. Zhuowen only had 5 Genesis divine pills on him. Now that he had used up 3 of them, as well as the other supplementary ingredients, this was a huge loss. Zhuowen poured out the medicinal dregs from the cauldron. He didn't plan to continue refining divine pills. He knew that he was already very close to reaching the God of Creation stage. All he needed was a final opportunity. If he continued to refine divine pills now, he would only end up wasting the 2 remaining God of Creation stage divine pills that he had. Zhuowen flipped open the True Alchemy Array record, and his eyes fell on the last page of the record. His expression was extremely serious. After the True Alchemy Array record was completed, the last page of the record was about recovering the 6 soul desires. It was said that in order to recover the 6 soul desires of a cultivator, one needed a divine pill called the 6 Desires Spirit Condensing Saint Pill. Chapter 28-29. Qualification round the heaven-piercing grade elixir was above the creation grade elixir. To refine a heaven-piercing grade elixir, one had to be a heaven-piercing grade elixir master. However, in the entire host region, Ji Wuming was the only creation grade elixir master, let alone a heaven-piercing grade elixir master. Even Ji Wuming was not qualified to refine the 6 Desires Spirit Congealing Elixir. What made him even more helpless was that the 6 Desires Spirit Congealing Elixir's main ingredients were 6 different heaven-piercing grade elixirs. These 6 heaven-piercing grade elixirs were the 1000-year flowerless eyes, red pill, exquisite phoenix leaf, Buddha yellow water bamboo, 3 realms flower chenyu, and scarlet moonstar ripple milk. Zhuowen had never heard of any of these 6 heaven-piercing grade elixirs before. Zhuowen knew that it was impossible for him to refine the 6 Desires Spirit Congealing Elixir. Even Ji Wuming couldn't do it. The only thing he could do now was to give the Moyan of Wushang to Ji Wuming and see if he had any other methods to restore the 6 desires in a cultivator's soul. After leaving the room, Zhuowen walked straight to the Pill Array Immortal Alliance's main building. Immortal Master Zhuo. When Zhuowen entered the main building, the guards at the entrance lowered their heads in respect. They were extremely respectful to Zhuowen. Zhuowen was now the 5th Immortal Master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. His status was equal to Huan Taiping and the others. All the Pill Array Immortal Alliance's Pill Array Immortal Alliance respected him like a god. Hey, Brother Zhuo, what a rare guest. You've been an Immortal Master for so many days. This is your first time here, right? An old man with white hair and a beard walked over. When he saw Zhuowen, he immediately greeted him warmly. Elder Fang, I'm here to look for Alliance Master Ji. I wonder if he's in the main building. Zhuowen cupped his hands. This old man was Fang Zisha, who had appeared outside the Pill Array Pagoda with Huan Taiping. Haha, that's great. I'm also looking for the Alliance leader. Come with me. Today, even if you didn't come, I'm afraid that old fellow Huan Taiping would have gone to call you. Now that you've come, that's just right. It saves that old fellow Huan Taiping from running errands. Fang Zisha laughed. Zhuowen, on the other hand, was flabbergasted. He revealed a puzzled expression and asked, "Why did the Alliance leader summon us?" "This matter has something to do with you. It's about participating in the Alchemy Array Dao Domain Qualification Competition. You'll know when you get there." Fang Zisha blinked his eyes and spoke in a somewhat disrespectful manner. "Zhuowen, you're already here. That's great, I don't have to go and call you." A voice filled with vicissitudes of life came from behind. Zhuowen and Fang Zisha saw Huan Taiping jogging over and catching up to the two of them. Grandmaster Huan. Zhuowen smiled and cupped his hands. No need to be so courteous. You are also an immortal master. Our statuses are equal. You can just call me Brother Huan. Huan Taiping waved his hand. Zhuowen smiled faintly and didn't fuss over the way he addressed Huan Taiping. The three of them chatted and laughed as they walked into the depths of the main building. This was a very large hall. There were only 6 seats in this hall, and each seat was extremely luxurious. At this moment, Ji Wuming was sitting in the main seat. The other 2 seats were also occupied by 2 wide-robed old men. Zhuowen knew that these 2 wide-robed old men should be the other 2 immortal masters of the Pillaray Immortal Alliance. The 3 of you are here. Sit down. Ji Wuming pointed at the other 3 empty seats and said. Zhuowen and the other 2 sat down. Huan Taiping sat beside him and quietly introduced the other 2 immortal masters to Zhuowen. Among the 2 immortal masters, one of them was an old man with a brandy nose called Jiang Kang. The other old man with sharp eyes was called Xiao Yi. According to Huan Taiping's introduction, these 2 immortal masters weren't alchemy masters, but divine array masters. Moreover, they were Genesis stage divine array masters. It seemed that in the Pillaray Immortal Alliance, Genesis stage alchemy masters and divine array masters were equally divided. While Zhuowen was sizing up the 2 immortal masters, Jiang Kang and Xiao Yi were also sizing up Zhuowen. This time, I called you here mainly to tell you about the qualifiers for the Pillaray Dao domain. I'm afraid that all of this will depend on Immortal Master Zhuowen. Ji Wuming's gaze fell on Zhuowen and he said with a smile. Qualifiers? Zhuowen's face was blank. Immortal Master Zhuo, we wanted to tell you about this before the qualifiers, but you were always in seclusion refining pills, so we didn't have the chance. Actually, it's like this. Huan Taiping sat by Zhuowen's side and very dutifully told him about the qualifiers. After listening, Zhuowen revealed a look of understanding. It turned out that the Pillaray Immortal Alliance originated from the Pillaray Dao domain. In the Xian-Mi Heavenly Domain's East, West, South, and North Dao domains, there were corresponding Pillaray Dao domain branches. Among them, Zhuowen's Pillaray Immortal Alliance was called the Eastern Immortal Alliance. It was mainly open and recruited alchemy array masters from the host domain. The other 3 Dao domains also had corresponding Pillaray Immortal Alliances. They were the Western Immortal Alliance, the Northern Immortal Alliance, and the Southern Immortal Alliance. The 4 divisions would hold a qualifier every 10,000 years to select outstanding alchemy array masters from the 4 divisions to enter the Pillaray Dao domain for 100 years. It was said that alchemy array masters who could cultivate in the Pillaray Dao domain for 100 years could break through to the 3rd step of the alchemy Dao domain after coming out of seclusion. When the Pillaray Immortal Alliance's alliance master, Ji Wuming, was still an eternal stage alchemy master, he participated in the qualifiers and stood out, entering the Pillaray Dao domain for 100 years. After coming out of seclusion, Ji Wuming was already a peak Genesis stage alchemy master. After returning to the Pillaray Immortal Alliance for 1,000 years, he broke through again and became a creation stage alchemy master, becoming the alliance master of the Pillaray Immortal Alliance. It could be said that this qualifier, which was held once every 10,000 years, was a huge opportunity for the 4 divisions. It was a grand event that was highly valued. Immortal Master Zhuo, the condition to participate in the qualifier is that you must be younger than 10,000 years old. I've seen your bone age. You're very young and definitely not older than 10,000 years old. Moreover, you've passed the 12th level of the Pillaray Pagoda. You're the best candidate for this qualifier. Ji Wuming smiled at Zhuowen. He thought highly of Zhuowen. Not to mention that Zhuowen had passed the 12th level of the Pillaray Pagoda, just the fact that Zhuowen was younger than 10,000 years old and could cultivate both alchemy Dao and array Dao to the eternal stage already surpassed most of the alchemy array masters in the Pillaray Immortal Alliance. Ji Wuming felt that Zhuowen had a high chance of standing out in this qualifier and entering the Pillaray Dao domain. Alliance Master Ji, does the Pillaray Dao domain have any transcending heaven alchemy masters? Zhuowen didn't immediately agree. Instead, he asked the question in his heart with an expectant look in his eyes. Ji Wuming looked proud and smiled faintly. The Pil Array Dao domain is the origin of the Pil Array Dao in the Xian Mi heavenly domain. Naturally, there are transcending heaven alchemy masters, but there are very few of them. I only know of one. As for whether there are more, I'm not too sure. Okay. Then I'll participate in this qualifier, Zhuowen said firmly. Seeing that Zhuowen had agreed, Ji Wuming and the others smiled. With Immortal Master Zhuo's help, our Eastern Immortal Alliance has a better chance of winning the qualifier. Immortal Master Zhuo must remember that there are only about 200 years until the qualifier begins. I hope Immortal Master Zhuo can cultivate alchemy Dao during this time. Zhuowen nodded, indicating that he understood. Then he took a deep breath and cupped his fists. Alliance Master Ji, I have a request. I hope Alliance Master Ji can agree to it. Chapter 2830. 8 Scenery Soul Concentrating Divine Pilzhua when clasped his fist again. Caution appeared in his eyes as he took out a translucent crystal coffin from his large world. A beautiful woman lay quietly in the crystal coffin. She looked like a sleeping beauty with a unique temperament. Master Zhuo, what are you? Huan Taiping was the first to speak. He looked at the crystal coffin and asked. Fang Zisha and the other 3 Master Immortals were also surprised. Obviously, they didn't understand why Zhuowen took out a crystal coffin. Ji Wuming, on the other hand, looked serious when he saw Zhuowen take out the crystal coffin. Ji Wuming landed next to the crystal coffin and stared at the beautiful woman in the coffin. He frowned and said, "What a cruel method. The 6 desires in this woman's soul have been stripped away. And if I'm not wrong, the 6 desires in her body were also stripped away, but they have been artificially restored." Ji Wuming looked at Zhuowen and asked for Zhuowen's opinion. Her name is Moyan Wushang, and she's my confidant. Zhuowen looked at the beautiful woman sleeping in the crystal coffin. His eyes were full of gentleness. He told her about how Moyan Wushang lost his 6 desires and how his soul almost dissipated. After everyone present heard this, they were all moved. Moyan Wushang's fate was indeed very rough. Moyan Wushang became like this because of Zhuowen, so Zhuowen owed Moyan Wushang a huge debt of gratitude. I have to say that the person who performed the technique was very vicious. They controlled the 6 desires of this woman in the palm of their hand. Her life and death were all in their hands. It's not difficult to restore the 6 desires of this woman's body. You've already done it. However, this matter involves the level of the soul. It's extremely tricky. Ji Wuming shook his head and gave Zhuowen a helpless look. Alliance Master Ji, you are the only creation-grade alchemist in the host region. Could it be that even you are helpless? Zhuowen was disheartened. Ji Wuming shook his head in shame. The loss of the 6 desires was a very tricky problem. If he was careless, Moyan Wushang's spirit would be completely destroyed, and there would be no room for recovery. Ji Wuming could try to save Moyan of Wushang, but he had less than a 10% chance of success. If he failed, Moyan of Wushang's soul would scatter. There was only one chance, so Ji Wuming didn't dare to take the risk. But I can help you stabilize her divine soul. Due to the lack of the 6 desires, her divine soul seems to have lost its 6 pillars. Her divine soul is unstable and may collapse at any time. Ji Wuming continued. Zhuowen sighed and cupped his hands at Ji Wuming. Thank you, Leader Ji. Zhuowen knew that Ji Wuming was willing to help him for free because of him. Of course, Zhuowen wasn't an ungrateful person. At the same time, he also knew that if a creation-grade alchemist like Ji Wuming couldn't restore Moyan of Wushang's 6 desires, then perhaps only a heaven-grade alchemist could do it. Of course, if he could refine the 6 desires spirit condensing pill, he could also completely save Moyan of Wushang. But whether it was a heaven-grade alchemist or a 6 desires spirit condensing pill, they were too far away for him. Ji Wuming waved his hand, indicating that Zhuowen didn't have to be so polite. Then he opened the crystal coffin and pointed his right hand at Moyan of Wushang's forehead. Ji Wuming pinched his index and middle fingers together and spewed out a 5-colored flame. This flame was extremely strange. It seemed to have a terrifying temperature, but it didn't cause any burns on Moyan of Wushang's forehead. In the hall, Zhuowen and the other 4 immortal masters didn't speak. They just looked at Ji Wuming quietly. About half an hour later, Ji Wuming retracted his right hand and closed the coffin lid again. He looked at Zhuowen with a dignified expression. This lady's soul has already begun to crumble, and it's extremely severe. I can only suppress the crumbling of her soul, but if I want to completely stabilize this lady's soul, I'll need to refine the 8 scenery soul condensing divine pill. Ji Wuming paused and looked at Zhuowen. The 8 sceneries soul condensing divine pill is a fortune grade divine pill. I have most of the ingredients, but I'm still missing the main ingredient, the elusive realm underworld soul flower. You need to help me find the elusive realm flower. The elusive realm flower is a creation grade divine pill. Even the divine medicine valley doesn't have it. I'm afraid it's not easy to find. Quan Taiping's expression changed slightly. Ji Wuming suddenly said, I remember that the elusive realm flower once appeared in the Yin Nether Hell of the 10 Extreme Yin Corp sect. Zhuowen, wait a moment. I'll contact the sect master of the 10 Extreme Yin Corp sect and see if he can hand over the elusive realm flower. Ji Wuming took out a communication jade talisman and contacted the sect master of the 10 Extreme Yin Corp sect. But soon, Ji Wuming's expression turned ugly. Alliance master, what's wrong? Quan Taiping asked. Ji Chengyin has been evading my request. He won't give me the elusive realm flower. Even if I offer him a creation-grade divine pill, he won't agree, Ji Wuming said helplessly. The realm-fleeing underworld soul flower is very beneficial to Ji Chengyin's cultivation. Once the realm-fleeing underworld soul flower appears in the underworld hell, Ji Chengyin will immediately take it away. It is not likely that he will hand over the realm-fleeing underworld soul flower. Fang Zisha sighed. Then I'll go to the Yin Nether Hell. Since he won't exchange with the Alliance Master, he'll at least give me face and let the cultivators of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance enter the Yin Nether Hell, right? Zhuowen said in a deep voice. If it's just a spot to enter the Yin Nether Hell, that old monster Ji Chengyin will indeed agree. Ji Wuming nodded, but continued worriedly. The Umbra Hell is the training ground of the Yin Corp sect of the 10 Extremes. It is also a famous killing ground in the host territory. If you go in there, you will either kill or be killed. Who knows how many cultivators have died in there? Ji Wuming didn't finish his words, but his meaning was obvious. Zhuowen wasn't strong enough, so entering the Yin Nether Hell was courting death. Alliance Master Ji, don't worry. I have the ability to protect myself. You said that the elusive realm flower can only be produced in the Yin Nether Hell. Moreover, Wushang's divine soul is very unstable now. If it's too late, I may regret it for the rest of my life. Zhuowen was very calm. He looked at Ji Wuming with a firm gaze. Ji Wuming frowned. Zhuowen was the main force participating in the Pill Array Dao Domain qualification competition. Although there was still some time before the start of the qualification competition, he didn't want Zhuowen to have an accident during this period. However, Zhuowen's tone was firm and unyielding. Ji Wuming also knew that if he tried to persuade him, it would be futile. Chapter 2831. Universe Explosion Array. Since you have already made up your mind, I won't say anything more. I will ask Ji Chengyin for a slot to enter the Umbra Hell for you, but you must be careful. Ji Wuming took out a set of array flags from his spirit ring and handed it to Zhuowen. This is the Universe Explosion Array, a Genesis grade array. It can help you escape from a life and death crisis. Zhuowen accepted the Universe Explosion Array, but he didn't care too much about it. He had the Hu Yi Godly Bow and Hu Yi Godly Arrow, which were much more terrifying than the Universe Explosion Array. As long as it wasn't a terrifying expert like the Master of Creation, Zhuowen wouldn't be afraid. In the end, Zhuowen left Moyan Wushang here under Ji Wuming's request. While he left, Ji Wuming promised that he would help Zhuowen get a slot to enter the Umbra Hell within a few days. Zhuowen only needed to wait patiently. Before leaving, Zhuowen urged Quan Taiping to leave with him. He needed to ask Quan Taiping where the most skilled blacksmith was in Pill Array Immortal City. Immortal Master Zhuo, you want to find a blacksmith? Could it be that you want to forge some kind of divine tool? Quan Taiping was puzzled. The Umbra Hell is filled with unknown dangers, so I naturally need to be well prepared, Zhuowen said. Huan Taiping nodded and enthusiastically brought Zhuowen to a shop called Myriad Weapons Workshop. But what made Zhuowen speechless was that there was only an old man in the shop. There wasn't even an assistant. At this moment, the old man was sitting on a wooden armchair at the entrance, crossing his legs and humming a tune. He was very idle. When he saw Zhuowen and Huan Taiping enter, he only gave them a sidelong glance and was too lazy to bother with them. This is the most skilled blacksmith in Pill Array Immortal City. Zhuowen was speechless. Huan Taiping was somewhat embarrassed as he said, although the shops of the 10,000 Weapons Lane are a bit sloppy, Master Yuan's superb skills are unparalleled even in the host region. As he said that, Huan Taiping smiled and walked in front of the disheveled old man. Master Yuan, this is a newly promoted Immortal Master of our Pill Array Immortal Alliance. He wants to find you to forge a divine weapon. See if you can help. Zhuowen found it very strange. Huan Taiping was after all an Immortal Master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Now, he was actually so accommodating towards the disheveled old man. This Master Yuan's identity was probably not simple. Oh! So the little demon who passed the 12th floor of the Pill Array Pagoda was him. Interesting. Since it's Zhuowen, I'll forge a divine artifact for you for free. Master Yuan suddenly became spirited. He looked at Zhuowen from head to toe as if he was looking at a rare treasure. Zhuowen felt goosebumps all over his body as Master Yuan looked at him. He was somewhat puzzled. Why did this old man suddenly become spirited when he heard that it was him? That Ji Wuming only passed the 11th floor of the Pill Array Pagoda, but you surpassed him. This makes this old man feel very relieved. I finally got to see that Ji Wuming suffer. What divine weapon do you want? Just tell me. As long as it's made by me, Yuan Jenny, it won't be an ordinary item. Master Yuan laughed loudly. Zhuowen felt relieved. It seemed like this disheveled old man had suffered a loss at the hands of Ji Wuming before. Thus, he held a grudge against Ji Wuming. I need you to forge a batch of arrows for me. They have to be at least of the Genesis tier, Zhuowen said. The reason he needed arrows was naturally to prepare for the Huyi Divine Bow. Although the Huyi Divine Bow and the Huyi Divine Arrow were powerful, the killing intent of the two was too terrifying. Even he would be seriously injured every time he used it. If he used ordinary arrows, he would be able to withstand the one-sided killing intent of the Huyi Divine Bow. Moreover, the arrows shot out would be extremely powerful. Although they couldn't be compared to the Huyi Divine Arrow, it wouldn't be a problem for him to fight against a Genesis tier expert. More importantly, the Huyi Divine Arrow was too extraordinary and ostentatious. Others could tell that it was extraordinary with a single glance. The Huyi Divine Bow, on the other hand, looked like an ordinary wooden bow. Only when the bow was drawn would it show its extraordinary power. Normally, it wouldn't attract the attention of others. Master Yuan agreed straightforwardly and told him to come back 3 days later. After that, he hurriedly drove Zhuowen and Huan Taiping out. Immortal Master Zhuo, don't mind him. Master Yuan has always been like this. Huan Taiping smiled awkwardly. Zhuowen didn't mind. As long as the arrows forged by Master Yuan were of high quality, it didn't matter whether Master Yuan's attitude was good or bad. 3 days later, Ji Wuming sent him a message. He had already secured a place for him to enter the Yin Nether Hell. As long as he went to the 10 Extremes Yin Corpse sect, he would be able to enter the Yin Nether Hell directly. During these 3 days, Zhuowen had asked Ji Wuming about the 1,000-year flowerless eyes, red cloud blue sun red, blazing phoenix exquisite leaf, Buddha yellow water bamboo, 3 realms flower chenyu, and crimson moonstar ripple milk. What surprised Zhuowen was that Ji Wuming had only heard of 3 of these divine medicines. As for the other 3, he hadn't even heard of them. Zhuowen also knew that the heavenly divine medicines were extremely rare in the host region. Even the Pill Array Immortal Alliance didn't have any divine medicines of this level. Ji Wuming suggested that the heavenly divine medicines could only be found in the Pill Array Dao domain. The host region might have them, but they definitely grew in extremely secretive and dangerous places. Zhuowen sighed in his heart. He knew that it was impossible for him to find the 6 divine medicines of the 6 desires spirit-condensing Saint Pill unless he was lucky or entered the Pill Array Dao domain. At the same time, Yuan Zhenyi's forging was also completed. He sent someone to personally deliver it to Zhuowen's residence. The quota and arrow forging for the Yin Nether Hell had been completed, but Zhuowen didn't immediately go to the 10 Extremes Yin Corpse sect. After instructing Fire Plume and the others to stay in the Pill Array Immortal City, he went to the inn where Xia Qinfan and the others were staying. "Big brother Zhuowen, why are you here?" Xia Qinfan looked at Zhuowen in surprise. Zhuowen smiled and said, "Miss Xia, I heard that your father was injured hundreds of years ago and went into seclusion. I've already advanced to the eternal grade. Maybe I can go to the Taisui Sword sect to take a look at your father." Xia Qinfan was startled. She immediately lowered her head and thanked Zhuowen. She was a smart woman. She knew that Zhuowen's real purpose was to help her. The current situation of the Taisui Sword sect was very unclear. Zhong Chengxuan's faction controlled almost 80% of the Taisui Sword sect's forces. This time, Xia Qinfan's faction had chosen the right alchemist and made a big splash in the Pill Dao Domain Grand Assembly. They had also obtained 10 quotas to enter the Divine Medicine Valley. Once Xia Qinfan and the others returned to the Taisui Sword sect, what greeted them wasn't cheers from the sect. Instead, they were suppressed and made things difficult for by Zhong Chengxuan's faction. Chapter 28-32. Zhong Chengxuan waved his hand, indicating that Xia Qinfan didn't need to thank him. At this moment, Xia Qinfan's door was knocked at an untimely moment. Moreover, the knocking was very urgent, as if it was a ghost. "Xia Qinfan, senior brother Zhong has sent a message urging you to return to the Taisui Sword faction within a few days. Otherwise, senior brother Zhong will personally come to interrogate you." An extremely arrogant and impatient voice came from outside the door. Zhuowen opened the door and saw that the person knocking on the door was Jiang Mo, whom he had sent flying with a slap. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes, and a hint of coldness flashed in them. "You're finally willing to open the door. Xia Qinfan, you don't live up to your title as the daughter of the sect leader. The Taisui Sword faction is now under senior brother Zhong's control. If you don't listen, then just wait." When Jiang Mo saw the door open, the arrogance on his face became even stronger. He did not even see the person who opened the door, but he was shouting arrogantly. However, when Jiang Mo saw the face of the person who opened the door, he looked as if he had seen a ghost. He was rooted to the spot, and his neck unconsciously stretched out, like a rooster being lifted by the neck. "Immortal. Immortal Master Zhuo." Jiang Mo covered his right cheek and hurriedly backed away, revealing a smile that was uglier than crying. He would never forget the slap that Zhuowen gave him a few days ago. That slap had caused his right cheek to swell up, and all his teeth on the right side had been shattered. Jiang Mo would never forget that heart-wrenching pain. "You're too noisy." Zhuowen's eyes were indifferent. He grabbed Jiang Mo and slapped him on his left cheek. The tragic Jiang Mo screamed. His originally intact left cheek was completely swollen, and his right cheek was swollen, making him look like a pig's head. Jiang Mo, on the other hand, was sprawled on the ground, unconscious. "Miss Xia, it seems that your situation in the Taisui Sword faction is not good." Zhuowen looked at Xia Qinfan. Xia Qinfan smiled bitterly and said, "Zhong Chengxian was my father's last disciple and was deeply loved by my father. My father even taught him a lot of divine abilities. However, I didn't expect that after my father was seriously injured and on the verge of death, Zhong Chengxian would be so ungrateful that he wanted to kill me and take the position of sect master. Big brother Zhuo, I know that you are very powerful, but even if the Taisui Sword sect has declined, it is still a Dao Palace level force. If you follow me back to the Taisui Sword sect, you will probably suffer." Zhuowen said, "Lady Xia, don't worry. I'm now an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Even if I follow you back to the Taisui Sword sect, Zhong Chengxian won't dare to do anything to me. If he dares to touch me, his life will come to an end." Xia Qinfan went silent. Zhuowen was right. Zhuowen's status was no longer the same as before. He was an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Anyone who dared to touch Zhuowen would be going against the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. The next day, Zhuowen bid farewell to Ji Wuming, Huan Taiping, and the others. He followed Xia Qinfan and left the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Zhuowen sat in a luxurious cabin, looking down at the trembling Jiang Mo who was kneeling on the ground. Tell me about Zhong Chengshuan's cultivation. And the current situation of the Taisui sword sect, Zhuowen said indifferently. Zhuowen didn't directly take Jiang Mo's life. Instead, he kept him alive to obtain more information about the Taisui sword sect. From Jiang Mo, Zhuowen learned that Zhong Chengxian was indeed a genius. It was said that he had cultivated for less than 2,000 years and was already a half-step Genesis overlord. His strength was terrifying, and he had once escaped from an early-stage Genesis overlord. Apart from Zhong Chengxian, the Taisui sword sect didn't have any other half-step Genesis overlords. They only had 7 or 8 eternal overlords. It could be said that the Taisui sword sect's current strength was only slightly stronger than some Dao sects. Any Dao Palace sect could easily crush the Taisui sword sect. Ever since Zhuowen's Pangu sacred body had advanced to 5 stars, he didn't even put a late-stage Genesis overlord like Yin Wuxie in his eyes. As for the Lightning God Park and the Huangji family, who had previously caused him to be in a sorry state, they were nothing in his eyes. A mere Taisui sword sect was truly insignificant in Zhuowen's eyes. This time, he wanted Xia Qinfan to become the new sect master of the Taisui sword sect. If Zhong Chengxian objected, it would give Zhuowen a reason to make a move. The Taisui sword sect was built in a huge valley. This valley was enshrouded in a thin layer of white mist, and it looked like a paradise. When Xia Qinfan, Zhuowen, and the others arrived at the mountain gate, a handsome young man in white was already waiting for them. A refined smile hung on the corner of the white-clothed youth's mouth. He said to Xia Qinfan, "Junior sister Qinfan, you've come back really late. I remember that the pill tempering conference ended a long time ago. Why have you only come back now? Senior brother Jean, you don't have to worry about this. I felt comfortable staying in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, so I stayed a little longer." "Can't I?" Xia Qinfan said bluntly. Zhong Chengxian smiled slightly. He didn't even look at Zhuowen. After all, Zhuowen's aura was too weak. He was only Lord Chaos Yuan. In his eyes, this person was probably just a servant. However, when Zhong Chengxian saw Jiang Mo, who had been beaten to a pulp, his expression instantly turned ugly. "What's going on? Jiang Mo, how did you end up like this?" Zhong Chengxian stared at Jiang Mo, his voice filled with monstrous anger. Jiang Mo secretly glanced at Zhuowen and lowered his head. He didn't dare to speak in front of Zhuowen. Ever since Zhuowen had slapped him twice, Jiang Mo had become much more obedient. He didn't dare to disobey Zhuowen in the slightest. Even before he spoke, he would subconsciously glance at Zhuowen to ask for his opinion. Zhong Chengxian also noticed Jiang Mo's gaze, but he still didn't pay much attention to Zhuowen. In his opinion, what could a mere Lord Chaos Yuan do? "Junior sister Xia, Jiang Mo is the leader of this team that I appointed. Now that he's in this state, aren't you also responsible?" Zhong Chengxian said unhappily as he shifted his attention to Xia Qinfan. Xia Qinfan frowned slightly and said, "Jiang Mo offended someone he shouldn't have. It has nothing to do with us. If you don't believe me, you can ask Jiang Mo." Sure enough, when Zhong Chengshuan's gaze landed on Jiang Mo again, he saw that the latter was smiling and nodding repeatedly. Although Zhong Chengxian found that there were many suspicious points, he didn't take it to heart. The reason he had personally come out to greet them was mainly because of the divine herbs that Xia Qinfan had obtained from the Divine Medicine Valley. Previously, Jiang Mo had sent him a message saying that Xia Qinfan was extremely lucky. She had unintentionally invited a powerful alchemist and obtained first place in the pill pageant. Moreover, that alchemist was extremely generous and gave Xia Qinfan 10 spots. According to the rules of the Divine Medicine Valley, every cultivator that entered the Divine Medicine Valley had a chance to obtain 5 divine herbs. 10 spots meant 50 divine herbs, and all of them were second-step Dao validation divine herbs. These 50 divine herbs were a huge fortune to Zhong Chengxian and the Taisui sword sect. Since it has nothing to do with junior sister Xia, then I won't pursue the matter. Junior sister, you've worked hard this time. Give all the divine herbs you obtained to me for safekeeping. It's not safe to leave so many divine herbs with you. Chapter 28-33. Sword Tower Xia Qinfan looked at Zhong Chengxian and said in a low voice, Senior brother Zhong, according to the sect rules, the divine herbs I obtained must be handed over to the sect leader for safekeeping. Senior brother Zhong isn't the sect leader yet, right? Zhong Chengshuan's face stiffened, and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. He said coldly, before Master went into seclusion, he asked me to manage the Taisui sword sect. Therefore, I am now the acting sect leader. It is reasonable for me to safekeep the divine herbs. Xia Qinfan handed a spirit ring to Zhong Chengxian, who took it happily. After checking it, his eyes turned gloomy. Only 10 divine herbs. Zhong Chengxian said coldly. Senior brother Zhong, you are only the acting sect leader. You don't have such great authority. I want to hand the remaining divine herbs to my father personally. You said that my father went into seclusion to heal, but it has been so long, and there is no news. I must see him. Xia Qinfan said coldly. Zhong Chengxian frowned, and killing intent flashed in his eyes. He said indifferently, Junior sister Xia, do you not trust me? I don't dare. Junior sister has not seen my father in a long time, so I want to see him. Xia Qinfan did not back down. At that moment, the Supreme Elder standing beside Xia Qinfan spoke up, Cheng Xian, since Qinfan wants to see the sect master, just let her see him. After all, Qinfan is the sect master's daughter. It's only right for a daughter to see her father. Zhong Chengshuan's eyes flickered, and he nodded. Since the Grand Elder has spoken, I can't refuse. Junior sister Qinfan and Grand Elder, follow me. I will follow too. Zhuowen stood out and said indifferently, Who do you think you are? What right do you have to ask me? Zhong Chengxian looked at Zhuowen and narrowed his eyes. His tone was not polite. On the other hand, Jiang Mo's entire body trembled as he fell to his knees with a plop. He wanted to remind Zhong Chengxian that the person standing in front of him was not an ordinary person. He was an immortal master of the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance. Jiang Mo, what's wrong with you? When Zhong Chengxian saw Jiang Mo kneeling on the ground in such a cowardly manner, he felt that something was amiss. Jiang Mo trembled as he glanced at Zhuowen, then turned to Zhong Chengxian and stammered, Senior apprentice brother Zhong, the person beside me is Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance's new immortal master, Zhuowen. Zhong Chengshuan's body trembled. He looked at Zhuowen and blurted out, You're that Zhuowen who got first place in the Pill Grand Assembly and passed through the 12th level of the Pillar Ray Pagoda? Hihi, brother Zhong, you're wrong. I'm nothing. How can I have the qualifications to criticize brother Zhong? Zhuowen said indifferently. Zhong Chengshuan's heart trembled, and he hurriedly cupped his hands and apologized. Immortal Master Zhuo must be joking. Just now, this Zhong had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. I hope Immortal Master Zhuo won't pursue this matter. What if I insist on pursuing the matter? I, Zhuowen, am an immortal master of the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance. How dare you say I'm nothing in front of me? It doesn't matter if you look down on me, but if you look down on the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance, I won't let this matter slide. When I return, I'll definitely report this matter to the Alliance head. When the time comes, I think brother Zhong should know better than me what will happen to your Taisui sword faction. Zhuowen's tone was leisurely, but Zhong Chengxian felt his scalp go numb. He cursed Jiang Mo in his heart for not informing him of Zhuowen's identity earlier. Zhong Chengxian had wrongly accused Jiang Mo. When Jiang Mo knew that Zhuowen was coming, the latter had already confiscated his communication jade talisman in advance. Jiang Mo couldn't even contact Zhong Chengxian even if he wanted to. He knew how terrifying Zhuowen was. In front of Zhuowen, he didn't dare to speak carelessly. He was afraid that Zhuowen would slap him again and beat him half to death. He was really scared. Immortal Master Zhuo, it's all my fault. Immortal Master, what do you want me to do? Zhang Chengxian felt sullen, especially since this Zhuoan was only a small primordial chaos lord. There was a huge gap between them, but he had no choice but to lower his voice. After all, Zhuoan was an immortal master of the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance. Even when the Taisui Sword faction was at its peak, it was still far from being comparable to the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance, let alone the fact that the Taisui Sword faction had completely declined. One had to know that the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance was a huge force that even the 5 Dao palaces of the host region had to treat as equals. Even though the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance was filled with weak alchemists and array masters, they had friends all over the world. Their connections were spread across the entire host region. A cultivator's cultivation required the use of divine elixirs and formations. The greater the power, the higher the requirements for formations and divine elixirs. In the host region, there were too many people who came to the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance to ask for god pills and array formations. Among them were many old monsters who had retreated from the world. Even the 5 Dao palaces had asked the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance for help and owed them some favors. Even though the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance was filled with weak alchemists and array masters, once someone set their sights on the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance, the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance could easily gather a group of terrifyingly strong experts. An immortal master of the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance was someone Zhang Chengxian couldn't afford to offend. He could only lower his stance. Zhang Chengshuan's submission attracted the attention of the other disciples of the Taisui Sword faction. They looked at Zhuoan with eyes full of respect. They had heard the conversation just now and knew that this ordinary-looking youth was actually an honorable immortal master of the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance. Your mouth is very ugly. Slap yourself 81 times. Don't hold back, Zhuoan said indifferently. Zhang Chengshuan's eyes darkened. He clenched his fists tightly and finally slapped himself according to Zhuoan's request. Slap. 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 Zhang Chengxian kept slapping himself. The disciples of the Taisui Sword faction behind him were all stunned. They didn't expect that the powerful and ruthless senior brother Zhang would actually follow the youth's request and slap himself. After slapping himself, Zhang Chengshuan's mouth was completely swollen like 2 sausages. It was a comical sight. That's enough. Didn't Lady Xia tell you to bring him to see his father? Now, bring us there, Zhuoan said expressionlessly. Zhang Chengshuan's mouth was so swollen that he couldn't speak clearly. He could only reply with his spiritual will. Then, he brought Xia Qinfan, Zhuoan, and the Supreme Elder to the seclusion area of the Taisui Sword faction's sect master. As for the other disciples that Xia Qinfan brought back, they were arranged to stay in the Taisui Sword faction's disciple quarters. Zhang Chengxian finally stopped in front of a sword-shaped building. He pointed at the building and replied to Zhuoan with his spiritual will, "The sect master is in seclusion in this sword tower. Due to his serious injuries, I think it's best if Immortal Master Zhuo doesn't disturb him. Bring us in," Xia Qinfan said coldly. Chapter 28-34. Face-changing. The sword gauntlet was huge. It was shaped like a divine sword that fell from the sky and stabbed into the ground. The moment Zhuoan stepped into the sword gauntlet, he immediately felt a powerful sword energy that was faintly emitted from the inside. This sword energy was extremely sharp and even contained killing intent. Zhang Chengxian opened the door to the deepest room. It was pitch black inside and he said, "Sect Master is inside." "Father." Xia Qinfan did not even think and entered the room. The Supreme Elder followed closely behind her. Zhuoan looked deeply at Zhang Chengxian and said, "You're not going in?" Zhang Chengxian quickly cupped his hands and said, "I'll pass. I promised the sect master that I would not disturb him, so I won't go in. Does Immortal Master Zhuo have any other instructions? If not, I'll take my leave first." Zhuoan looked deeply at Zhang Chengxian and waved his hand casually. Zhang Chengxian bowed and slowly left the sword gauntlet. This Zhang Chengxian has guts. From the start, he planned to lure Lady Xia and the Supreme Elder into the sword gauntlet and kill the 2 of them in one fell swoop. The moment Zhuoan entered the sword gauntlet, His divine sense had already sensed that there was a peerless killing array around the sword gauntlet. The level of this killing array was not low. Xia Qinfan and the Supreme Elder would not be able to block such a terrifying killing array. As for Zhuowen, although he was an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, his strength was too weak. In Zhong Chengshuan's eyes, he would definitely not be able to escape after entering the killing array. Although Zhuowen saw through the killing array, he was waiting for Zhong Chengxian to make a move. He was waiting for Zhong Chengxian to give him a reason to kill him. If Zhong Chengxian was apprehensive of Zhuowen's identity as an immortal master and did not activate the killing array, then Zhuowen would at most help Xia Qinfan ascend the position and would not attack Zhong Chengxian. If he activated the killing array, Zhuowen would not be polite and would definitely kill Zhong Chengxian. Thinking of this, Zhuowen entered the depths of the room. With a flick of his finger, Zhuowen ignited the divine flame and used it as a torch to illuminate the surrounding environment. Around him was an empty space that looked like a warehouse. In the deepest part of the room, there was a huge iron cage with a figure locked inside. This figure was a man with disheveled hair and tattered clothes. He looked like a beggar on the streets. However, from this sloppy man's angular face, it could be seen that if this man was groomed, he would definitely be a handsome man. "Father, weren't you in seclusion? Why are you locked here?" Xia Qinfan rushed to the front of the iron cage and shook the iron cage door with all her might. Her beautiful eyes stared straight at the sloppy man in the iron cage, and her voice was filled with anger and disbelief. Cough cough. The sloppy man was awakened by Xia Qinfan's voice. Then, he widened his eyes and said excitedly, "Qinfan? Is it really you?" "It's me. Father, what's wrong with you? Why was he locked up here? Didn't Zhong Chengxian say that you were in seclusion to recuperate?" Xia Qinfan was filled with questions. At the same time, she vaguely guessed something. That traitorous disciple. My injuries were mostly healed 200 years ago. However, that traitorous disciple suddenly attacked me and severely injured me. He even imprisoned me in the depths of the sword gauntlet. The sloppy man's eyes widened and was spitting fire. Clearly, he was unable to restrain his anger when he recalled Zhong Chengshuan's actions. What? Why did Zhong Chengxian do this? Could it be for the position of sect leader? The Supreme Elder was also shocked and said angrily, "Yes. That traitorous disciple has always wanted to control the Taisui sword sect. Back then, I had already decided to pass the position of sect leader to Qinfan. However, I don't know how that traitorous disciple found out about it. Then, that traitorous disciple plotted everything." The sloppy man said in a deep voice. "That's right. Hurry up and leave. That traitorous disciple has set up a powerful killing array in the sword gauntlet. You are simply walking into a trap by entering here." The sloppy man seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly urged Xia Qinfan to leave this place. "It's too late. We didn't sneak into the sword gauntlet. It was Zhong Chengxian who led us in." Zhuowen, who was standing at the side, suddenly spoke. The sloppy man looked at Zhuowen in confusion. He didn't know Zhuowen. However, he didn't ask too much. He hurriedly said, "Why are you all so stupid? Can't you see that Zhong Chengxian is a wolf with wild ambitions? You actually followed him obediently into the sword gauntlet." The sloppy man was exasperated. In the end, he sighed helplessly and despair filled his heart. Xia Qinfan was also scared silly. She didn't know what to do and didn't know what to say. On the other hand, the Supreme Elder was rather calm. He pointed at Zhuowen and said to the sloppy man, "Sect leader, this little brother is a newly promoted immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. He has a high status. I think that with Immortal Master Zhuo here, that Zhong Chengxian shouldn't act rashly. After all, if something happens to Immortal Master Zhuo, the Pill Array Immortal Alliance will definitely blame Zhong Chengxian." The sloppy man was shocked. He hurriedly bowed to Zhuowen and said, "You're actually an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. This old man is Xia Yizhu. My eyes were blind just now and didn't recognize Immortal Master." Zhuowen waved his hand, indicating that there was no need for formalities. He said in a low voice, "That Zhong Chengxian will give me face, so I'm sure he'll be somewhat apprehensive. Now, I'll let you out, sect leader Xia. With that, Zhuowen grabbed the iron cage's door with his right hand and pulled, forcefully ripping the door off. Xia Yizhu was shocked. This iron cage wasn't made of ordinary materials. It was made of extremely hard and precious black iron. Even an eternal overlord wouldn't be able to easily open it. However, this immortal Master Zhuo had actually ripped the iron cage's door open with his bare hands. What kind of enormous strength did this require? Many thanks, immortal Master Zhuo. Xia Yizhu hurriedly thanked and bowed to Zhuowen as he walked out of the cage. Zhuowen waved his hand and said, "No need for unnecessary formalities. Let's leave the sword gauntlet first." With that, Zhuowen led the three of them toward the entrance. However, they quickly discovered that the entrance was already firmly shut. Moreover, the light of a formation flowed on the door's surface. It was obvious that an extremely powerful formation had been set up. Not good. That Zhong Chengxian really has wild ambitions. He wants to trap us here and kill us. The Grand Elder's expression changed drastically. Zhuowen's gaze was calm as he looked up and said coldly, "Zhong Chengxian, you've got some nerve. You clearly know who I am, yet you still dare to activate a killing formation to kill me." Soon, Zhong Chengshuan's arrogant voice rang out from the surrounding space. "Immortal Master Zhuo, I'm truly sorry. I originally didn't target you, but you insisted on following Xia Qinfan into the sword gauntlet. You're being too nosy. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,